Journey with us back into the fog for part 2 of our Silent Hill retrospective. This time we're taking on the movies. We're talking all things Silent Hill and Silent Hill Revelation. We watched them so you don't have to, so you know what time it is. What's up, Moon Goons? Welcome back to the Horrible Horror Podcast. Podcast where we watch the worst of the worst in horror movies. Movies so bad they're scary, but not all the time. Sometimes we do something a little bit different. And that's what this is. This is part 2 of our Silent Hill retrospective. Part 1, if you haven't listened to it already for some reason, is all about the games. We talked about all the games, but before we go into any more details, join me again for part 2 is Mr. Cincinnati Jeff. That's right. Cincinnati Jeff is here once again from the Here Comes the Spooky podcast, your second favorite podcast.
That's right. We took your request to heart, bringing you more content with less nachos. So como esta, fuckboys and ladies? Jeff is here.
Jeff is here to make everything better. So Cincinnati Jeff is back. I'm thrilled to have him back. I love it. Before we move on to the movies themselves, a couple house cleaning things I want to take care of. First of all is, again, I got to shamelessly plug our new merch page at horriblehorrorpodcast.com / well, it's not really / but just go to the merchandise page and you can find all of our new sexy little shindiggy things like t-shirts and hoodies and pint glasses and bumper stickers and stickers and cell phone cases and oh my, so much goodness there for everyone to love. Check it out. With that said, also remind you guys, check out the Here Comes the Spooky podcast as well, where they're our boys. We love them. Check them out. They do good stuff. They're funny. Get a little drunk and wild, so you never know what to expect on that one. It's always a good time over there. And the last thing I do want to mention is something I need to make up for from part 1 of this episode. It did not get overlooked. It's just we ran a little short for time, then we weren't able to get to it. But before we get to the movies, we have to talk about, at least briefly, since we didn't do in the first one, we have to talk about PT. When we were talking about the games, we did not get to PT, and that's, obviously probably one of the most, it's definitely the most recent thing. It was on everybody's mind, but it was a big deal when it came out. For some of you who doesn't know what that is, you don't know what it is. PT stands for playable trailer or teaser. That was supposed to be the kind of the peek behind the curtain of what was going to be the next gen Silent Hill installment on the PlayStation, but obviously then all the shit went down with Konami and all that shit, and it got pulled. It's no longer available. You can't even find it anywhere. So there's very few people out there who have like PlayStation 4s with that downloaded, and it's a very collectible.
This guy does.
I asked if you did. You weren't sure last time, but yeah.
So when So I got a new PS4 because mine was jacking up, so I backed everything up onto the hard drive and then wasn't sure when I set up the new one. When you asked me, like, hey, do you still have it? I was like, I have it on a hard drive. And then so put it back on, and so long as it's still connected to my account, so I pulled it up.
That's awesome.
Not too long ago, and it still works, yeah.
That's really cool. Because I saw something online about, like, there were people showing, like, trying to sell PS4s with PT on the hard drive for, like, exuberant amounts of money, like $1,000 or $1,500 for a PS4, but it had PT on the hard drive.
If anybody wants to make me an offer, I'm more than happy to sell it because I am not married to mine.
But the game itself, or the teaser trailer, it was only about like 20 minutes long, I think, but it was quickly and kind of almost a very popular or unanimously kind of declared the scariest game of all time. Even though it's not even really a full game. And I never got a chance to play it myself, but I watched lots of videos on it. I mean, I know all about it. And I gotta say, it looked awesome. It looked scary as fuck. And it's sad, And then of course the big reveal at the end is when at the end of the game you see this cinematic of a guy walking down, I guess supposed to be the streets of Silent Hill, and he looks up and you see it's Daryl. Not Daryl, but well, it's Daryl from Walking, but it's fuck, what's his name? Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus was the big reveal. Other than that, though, I will say, and you got to play it. At least I assume you've played it, Eric, or Cincinnati. And I mean, I never got to, but my thing is, as cool and creepy and scary as that game looked and was, to me, it didn't have the traditional Silent Hill feel to it. Granted, it's just a teaser, but the fact that you're in one building and this endless, it looked like a completely different type of horror, completely different thing than what Silent Hill used to be with the the fog and the other world and the creatures. This one went way more into like a lot of other horror games like ghosts and paranormal supernatural stuff, which I mean, yes, Silent Hill is that to an extent, but it didn't have a look of an actual Silent Hill game to me. So I don't know what your thoughts were on that.
So this was at that time where again, both Capcom and Konami were sort of like adjusting their horror franchises, because not long after this you had a playable demo for Resident Evil 7 that was first person, and you're in a weird cabin and it's very strange and it's unlike anything you've played. So this sort of reminded me of that.
That's what I was going to go there. I wanted to have you get your voice from, but that's kind of what my next thing was go. I'll just go ahead and finish up your thoughts, but I want to come back to that.
It is scary, but it's more unsettling and in a different, I don't know. It's not jump scares. It's still got that sort of like atmosphere to it, but it's also like it's parts of it that are scary, like with the weird phone calls and stuff like that. But then there's also like parts where you're like Hideo Kojima was the guy that was working on this, also with is it Guillermo del Toro? Is that his name?
Yeah,
the director.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
And so, like their ideas of what a Silent Hill game should be like. So obviously that's very different than what Team Silent was originally working on. Because at one point in time, you go into a room and then there's a paper bag that talks to you and tells you what to do. Like it's just a bloody paper bag.
Yes.
That wasn't scary to me. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was a lunch sack that was having a conversation with me.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the weirder, less creepy things, just kind of odd. But I mean, people got freaked out about, the distorted, weird, bloody fetus in the sink. That was one always got a lot of attention. And then like the ghost lady who was...
We'd already seen dead babies in Silent Hill. That was no big deal. Yeah. But a paper bag really got to me. But everybody else really focused on it. They're like, no, everything else is so scary. I'm like, but what about that fucking paper bag that talks to you? This is really off-putting. And not in like a scary kind of way. Just in like am I hallucinating? Who thought this was scary?
Yeah, so I get that's kind of one of my thoughts with going back to what you said earlier about the game. What PT was that maybe this was not to be a tradition. Obviously, the old school traditional Silent Hill, but I kind of like you said what they do with Rage. Kind of make still that franchise to get work off the name of it, but kind of a resetting of it, kind of like a starting over point of the franchise, kind of taking in a different direction, but still, I guess supposedly the game would have been branched out more. You were maybe actually in Silent Hill, and maybe some more stuff would have happened. But so I see your point there with it being more like what Resident Evil did with Biohazard and Village.
It's Konami's equivalent of punching a boulder. Just making that fucking bag talk to me.
God, the fucking boulder punch. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's got to go on infamy as one of like the weirdest, worst moments in video games.
Oh my God, dude. The other day, somebody tagged the Resident Evil like Twitter page, who then retweeted it, and it was like, which one is the greatest nemesis? Like, bad guy in Resident Evil. It was like Wesker, Nemesis, somebody else, and then the fourth one was the boulder.
Yeah. So I just wanted, we wanted to, there's not much else we can talk about PT4
No,
for
it's
now.
short,
It's
man.
so short. And like I said, I never got a chance to play it, so I can't even speak on my own experience. I can just talk about what I've seen on YouTube videos of people playing it. And I missed it. I regret the fact I never got a chance to play it. It just never happened for me, so that sucks. But maybe, if you have it, I might come over and play it someday in your basement.
Yeah, man, you totally can. I got to tell you though, like, and this just sounds really weird because I'm a big video game guy, but like, you're not missing much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really nothing right. Like, I downloaded it just to try it out along, like, anytime one of those major horror franchises has a demo like that, because I know the demo, at least at that point in time, wasn't going to be something that we would see in the game, so it was like very unique setting. So I was like, oh, sure, I'll give it a try. But like,
and maybe that's what it is. Maybe
finished it. It was. I was like, all right, that was weird.
Maybe it's also more like kind of like they do with like those, engine demos, like we do with like the Unreal Engine like 5 is coming out. So you're seeing all these graphical demos that aren't really games, and maybe that's part of what they were trying to do. Is like, hey, here's check out what we could do, and here's what we're capable of. But maybe that wasn't really what the game was going to be at all when it came out. Who knows?
I was honestly, and not that because I like Norman Reedus.
I have nothing
quite a bit.
Yeah, I like him too.
And it was interesting to see him in there, but like I hadn't played it yet, and a buddy of mine had, and he's like, "Oh, dude, wait till the end." I was like, "I'm not gonna tell you, but there's this character that walks up, is just gonna blow your mind." And I was like, "Cool." First, and I was like, Terry or maybe James, right? That would be really cool. And then it was Norman Reedus, and I was like, okay, well, that is neat and exciting, sure, but in a different way. I was more expecting some connection back to the other games because 1, 2, and 3 are so good. I assumed that that's a sort of they wanted to maybe go back to that instead of 4 on, which is just real total crap.
And again, maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe Norman Reedus is going to be playing like a new Harry Mason, or maybe he was the new James or something like that. And we just never found out. They never made it that far. And they were, that could have been a cool thing too.
No, instead we got Death Stranding, where Norman Reedus is pregnant. And it's the walking. Have you ever played it?
No, but I have no desire to play that. It's basically Pony Express in the future.
Oh my god, yeah! It's the walking simulator. Yeah. You just walk from point A to point B, and that's the whole game.
Yeah, I have no desire to play that one.
Even Kojima's like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I like it. I'm like, brother, hey, more power to you, making your own game. Konami's not holding you back no more.
Nope. All right, so let's move on to the movies themselves. We've got We'll talk about Silent Hill 1 first, obviously.
Woohoo!
Woo! So my dog's scratching on the carpet in the background, if you can hear it.
Fluffy butt.
Silent Hill 1 was released in 2006, written by Roger Avery, who has 16 credits, including, now he wasn't he's associate writer, had bits of writing on Reservoir Dogs, True Romance, Pulp Fiction, and Beowulf. It was directed by Christopher Gans, I think. He's got only 8 credits to his directing resume, but he's currently attached to direct a currently untitled Silent Hill movie that's in pre-productions, apparently. So, according to IMDb, there is a new Silent Hill movie in the works coming out some point.
I did hear about this.
I did not until I looked this when I was doing getting ready for this. I did not hear about that. I won't lie, I'm kind of excited about it.
Check everybody's second favorite podcast for any upcoming horror movie news.
Yeah, they do way more news than we do. We don't really do news here. We're just got like whatever. Everybody else tells us the news.
There is honestly, so from what I remember, there is not much detail about it at all. But from what I understand, the treatment is that it's going to be a sort of a reboot.
A reboot.
It's going to be nothing to do with any of the other characters, but it's going to be a reboot in the sense that it's going to be its own original story.
Okay. So it's not necessarily, it's loosely based on a game just because it's the game setting in Silent Hill, but it's not going to be any of the characters or anything that we know.
Right.
All right. I'm okay with that as long as they keep, the fog and the other world and do that stuff and not, I'm okay with that.
Certainly. I really don't feel that you have to focus on a protagonist of Silent Hill. That's the neat part about it.
I agree.
With Resident Evil, you had stars, and you had a very, very main cast that you always wanted to see in the games. And with these other ones, everybody sort of switched roles and stuff. And that would be okay if you could tell me a story about Silent Hill that doesn't necessarily have to involve Harry or Heather or James or anybody.
Yeah.
I think that would be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be very okay. I'm kind of intrigued by an original story that takes place in that universe, as long as they keep it true to like the universe. And like I said, keep the fog, keep the creatures, keep the other world, You can keep Pyramid in for like he should. Hopefully they keep him in at least in some capacity. Otherwise, and tell me original story. I'm fine with that. I hope though it's not like an origin story and it takes place in like the origin comic or book. Like,
the origin games that was terrible.
In like the 1600s or the 1800s and blah blah blah. I don't want that.
No,
don't want that.
I would like a modern day telling or set it in like the 90s or something like that. Have some Easter eggs to where it's like, oh, there's Harry's radio, so we know he's been here at some point.
Yeah,
in time.
that would be cool.
You see maybe James's map or his car or something. Just little Easter eggs to drop, let you know that you're in the same world.
Yeah,
their stories happened around this one kind of thing.
Somebody finds Cheryl's vest on the ground or something, the white vest. Yeah, that would be cool. Just a little Easter egg pinch that they link them together.
It lets you know it's like those things happened, but this also happened, and it's a new story for you. That'd be really cool.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. I'd be 100% on board with that.
But Hollywood doesn't think like I do.
No, unfortunately, they don't. So back to the movie. We're talking about three people in the cast really for right now. The main protagonist is Rose, played by Radha Mitchell. Most people know who she is. She's recognized. She's been in a lot of stuff. Sybil is played by Laurie Holden. She was Andrea in The Walking Dead.
Oh, dude, she is excellent in this.
She is so good.
She's recently on The Boys.
I was just about to say that. She is Crimson Countess in season 3 of The Boys. She was also in the 2005 Fantastic Four movie, Stephen King's The Mist, the movie of that, and she was in 13 episodes of The Shield.
Yeah, The Mist. Ooh, she's so good in that.
Dude, that's such a good. I love The Mist. Like that short story was one of my favorites.
The short story is excellent.
It's so epic.
The movie is better, but only because of the ending, and even Stephen King himself, and that is a depressing ending.
Yeah, the ending fucked me up.
That fucking ending is way better than anything I've ever written. I wish I'd have thought of that first. That is a good ending. If you've never seen The Mist, don't Google it. Don't Wikipedia that shit. Go watch it, because that ending will depress the shit out of you.
Yeah, it did.
You will never forget
I read the
it.
book. I read the story. I loved it, and I'm like, okay, let's check out The Mist. And I'm like, okay, let's see what they changed. Like, this ending's getting weird. Wait a minute, oh no. Oh, it shook me. That ending shook me.
Hard to watch as a parent.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
I did. Yeah, especially now I can imagine. But like back then, I didn't have that worries. But Jesus, it still fucked me up.
Ooh, it's good though.
And just like I got a little picture of me and Andrea on the back wall there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, me and Laurie Holden.
Was that at Wizard World?
That was the first Wizard World in St. Louis.
Yeah. We were walking by her and just chatted her up for a second. She was very nice in person.
She was incredibly sweet. I remember going to her panel, and it was, of course, this is like Walking Dead fever at this point, because it's like season 3 had.
It was right before she died.
Yes, and she was like, I can't answer Walking Dead questions. I can't answer Walking Dead. And I'm like, And then I was like, of course, now I know why, because you fucking died in the very next season. Like right after this con, like you died. So like I get it. But I remember wanting to talk to her. I didn't get a chance to really fully get a response from her on this, but I did remember I wanted her to talk about this movie, and especially her death scene at the end, like how filming that and like how intense that was, and how what all went into that. And unfortunately, she ran out of time, couldn't answer it. But when I was posing with that picture with her, I was kind of saying, "Hey, you rocked in Silent Hill." Everybody else is Walking Dead. I'm like, no, you rocked in Silent Hill, man. Andrea's great. Sybil was. She was knocked out of the park.
She was great. We'll get into it.
Yeah,
but, she's good.
Yeah, and then moving on, we have Christopher, played by Mr. I'm Killed in Everything I'm Ever In, Sean Bean. And then lastly, we have Sharon, played by Jodelle Fearland. She's this little girl. She was in The Tall Man of Jessica Biel's Cabin in the Woods. She was the voice of Little Sister in BioShock 2, for all you gamer fans out there.
That's cool.
She's been in Blood Rain 2. She was in the movie Good Luck Chuck, Twilight Eclipse, and she voiced Aggie on the animated movie Paranorman, for those guys who know that one, seen that. So that's really all the cast-wise I'm really going to mention. So, like I said, this movie, we're not going to do a full regular horrible horror breakdown of these movies like we do with this is gonna be more of just kind of an open-ended discussion, how they relate to the games, our thoughts or feels. So it's gonna be very back and forth. We might jump around from here to there and go back. It's just a discussion of the movie. So first off, I do say I wasn't upset. Like when it came out, of course, how did you feel about the fact that they changed? They basically took out Harry Mason and replaced it with Rose instead of Harry. That's obviously the biggest change right off the bat. So, And at the time, I'm like, I don't think I minded at the time because it had been a while since I played the games when this movie came out. Between when I played them and this movie came out, so like I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. I think the biggest one that bothered me for some reason was just the name Sharon. That name, I just couldn't. I guess maybe part of it maybe was this movie too, and how much she yells Sharon. But like, I hated the name Sharon that they used in this movie for some reason. I don't know why. But.
Yeah, well, I mean, despite how close I am to being 40 years old, when I hear the name Sharon, I'm sorry, my brain immediately goes Peters.
Yeah. Wait, what? No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Sharon Peters?
I am drawing a blank right now.
When you and your buddy, go to the bathroom together and Sharon Peters? You never heard of Sharon Peters?
Not in that sense. No, I was like, Sharon Peters, is this a person I'm supposed to know? Who's Sharon Peters?
I mean, everybody's.
I'm feeling really dumb right now. Do I not know who this is?
No. For me, you know what? It's weird. 7 years after the game came out.
Yeah.
And I'm such a big I'm the first guy in line picketing when I'm like, you fucking change shit.
Yeah.
But here, it didn't really bother me. I was kind of, where's Harry? But, I mean, that's the beauty about Harry in the game is that he's an everyman, right?
Yeah, he kind of is.
That's why he's not using crazy AK-47s and busting doors down and shit like that. He's just an average day guy. So they just swapped his gender. That really didn't bother me. It's still a parent that's looking for their child. And no, I didn't. I mean, I was like, where's Harry? Well, okay. I mean, it really wasn't a Harry.
Yeah, to me, it wasn't so much that they changed Harry to Rose to Ronald Mitchell. I was more upset with it that they changed the name of the kid to Sharon. That one bothered me more than anything else. Which is even weirder because
that was just a weird change.
It's just a weird change. Like, why? Like, it seemed like a change, an unnecessary change, just for like change for change's sake type thing. Especially since like one of the opening scenes of the movie when she's running out looking for Sharon who's sleepwalking, whatever. She goes through a tunnel and there spray painted on the wall behind her is Cheryl. Like, okay, so you obviously put that goose egg in. You put Cheryl on the wall. Why? Well, why not just keep her kid?
My guess
Cheryl
is probably go through the credits for some executive producer who backed the movie whose daughter's name was Sharon. Because that's just what I assume happens when they do goofy shit like that. I'm like, what is the point of this?
That's actually a very interesting point. That could be what happened.
Don't get me wrong. I don't like change just for change's sake. It's like when it doesn't add anything, you're just like, I just did it just because. Well, then fuck you.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. I'm not big on. I hate change for change's sake. But anyway, so that's just kind of. I will say, other than that, this movie also pretty much incorporates Silent Hill 1 and 2. Let's get that right. So it takes bits and pieces from both games and pushes them into this one movie. Which is fine, I guess. It wasn't the worst thing, especially since I guess the storyline they were going for. The storyline is definitely more 1, but there's a lot of visuals and creatures and events that
all the creatures are from 2.
Are from 2.
Very few.
Very few of anything that's from 1 creature wise. It's all from 2. So they took that, which is again fine because 2 had the better creatures, and of course if you're gonna make a movie like this, you have to include the icon of the series, which became Pyramid Head, who wasn't even in the first game. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to let's combine 1 and 2 and throw it in here.
Missing those mannequins though.
Yeah. Those come back in later though. But overall, though, I will say they did a really good job in the first movie of, I think, capturing that kind of Silent Hill feel as best they could in a shortened format where you don't have 12 hours of gameplay. You have to, hour and a half to 2 hours.
Short my ass. This is a 2 hour plus movie.
But I'm still not like, it's not as opposed to like an 8 to 12 hour game.
You are right. I get what you're saying.
So, I mean, when she gets to Silent Hill, the fog is there. Like, they did a good job with that. They kept Sybil the same, which is great. Again, and she does wonderful. She's awesome.
Although her personality, like in the first one, she's almost like way too trusting. Like she just gives Harry a gun. She's like,
I know.
hey, by the way, don't shoot. Like nobody's giving people guns nowadays.
Especially a cop is never going to give a civilian
She's
their
like,
gun.
here's a fucking random firearm stranger. Please don't shoot me. Only other person I've seen in town. But Cheryl in this movie, oh my God, dude.
Sybil, but yeah.
Or sorry, yeah, Sybil, sorry. Aggressive.
Yes.
Just like out the gate, like at one point in time, like Rose is handcuffed for absolutely no reason. There is no due process here whatsoever. But I will say, like, it's weird because when it first starts, it's not obviously they've got a different build up. But like once they start heading to Silent Hill after they leave the gas station, I mean there are points in that where like it's just shot for shot from the first game.
I mean, even the shot of like Sybil passing the car on her motorcycle as they go into town is straight from the game.
The little girl causes the car wreck.
Yep. And then when they pass Sybil, the motorcycle has crashed on the side of the road, and there's so much that they did a great job.
As soon as she gets in there, and she's looking for Sharon, she goes down the alleyway, which is where you first go down as Harry, and you start to go into Silent Hill. The gray kids with the knives are there. The mumbler, which is the dude that's tied to the fence, is there. You get the top-down view, just like in the game. Like
there's parts of
chef's kiss to those pieces because it's very.
I mean, there's even like
a love letter to that.
Like the one scene, like the first time you're in, Harry gets there. He gets in that alleyway. He gets swarmed by the demon babies with knives, and they overwhelm him, and you basically die. Like you die. You're like, oh shit, you have an uncontrolled. You cannot control it. You die in the game, and that's basically what. And then he wakes up in the diner, and that's exactly what happens in this movie. Only take out the babies, well, they're slightly different, but they're still burnt crazy.
They're supposed to be the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And happens again with Rose. They overwhelm her. They just smother her. She basically is about to die and then she wakes up. Only instead of the diner, it's in the bowling alley, which was still a location from number 2 anyway. At least they kept a location. So again, they did just incorporating things straight from the game. They did such a good job of that. In this first movie, it's so good. I also love the. Oh shit! Where was I going? I forget. But fuck it. I don't know. Let's move on. I guess my point. One point. I was probably say it later too. But I think this movie. Now I might be forgetting something. It might be one I haven't seen. But to me, so like this movie is one of the best, if not the best, video game adaptation movies I've ever seen. As far as really sticking to course material, and just basically putting the game on the screen and keep doing what made it so great and what the fans loved. I mean, we saw what happened with the Resident Evil series. Fuck that. And then like you had the Mario Brothers and Double Dragon. There's so many other horrible video game movie adaptations that sucked. But then this one, like by far, just seems to be the best of all the video game adaptations.
Have you seen the new Sonic movies?
I have. That's what I'm saying. I haven't seen either of the Sonic movies.
They are excellent. I would say that's probably the best, most accurate video game to screen depiction I've ever seen. But Silent Hill, the 2006, top 5 easily.
Because my point about Silent Hill, or not Silent Hill, Sonic. Not so much my point because I can't say for sure because I haven't seen them. But to me, that was always one of the games. Like when I started making a Sonic movie, all you do is run around and get rings. Like how are they going to translate that into a stretched out whole out movie?
Watch it.
Do you run around? Does he run around and chase rings and collect rings in the movies? Man. I mean, I've heard Sonic 2 is actually pretty good. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. So let's move on. Get back to Silent Hill. So again, in Silent Hill 1, it talks with in the movie. It focuses on the cultist storylines from the first game.
Completely drops the whole drug dealer thing.
Yeah, the drug side plot is
which
gone.
I don't think ever gets brought up again in the entire franchise. Thank God.
Yeah, I'm glad it got rid of the drug. That would have been a weird side subplot in that movie. So, and then they have, they kept Dahlia. They introduced Dahlia, who I thought was great in the movie too. Deborah Unger, I think her name is something. Did a great job as Dahlia. I really think she nailed it. And then Christabel as well is kind of like the main villain in this one. The cult leader that everybody is afraid of or follows, just loyally and blindly. I did. What do you think about the choices with I guess all the rest of the overpopulation? We'll say the overpopulation of Silent Hill, because like in the games, there's like maybe 10 people
right.
in the entire town. But this game, like there's like literally a whole town still living in this weird ethereal realm. They're just trapped there, and then you have like there's scouting parties. I guess they're dressed in like hazmat suits and carrying like canaries in cages and all this stuff.
It's
an
like
interesting.
Harry Warden from My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah,
those are weird, and you actually don't get an explanation on those guys until the next movie. Like it takes them 6 years and a whole other film to explain it. That was weird.
They explain it in a way which I guess it makes sense, but then what happened? We'll get to 3. But I'll try to remember to get back to it. But they go a little overboard with it, because like obviously what happens to them based on their reasoning is weird, because it doesn't happen to anybody else.
Yeah, just these guys.
Just these weirdos.
Just looking these guys. It is weird. Like because it's like, like you're getting halfway through the movie, and it's very Silent Hill-ish, and then all of a sudden there's a church bell ring, and like all of a sudden there's these people coming out of the woodwork and going into the church, and I'm like, oh hey, what's up, Resident Evil 4? And it's just like a couple dozen people.
Yeah, it's like a small town, like a village of people that are living, that are still trapped here. It was definitely different than the games, but I think it kind of worked, because especially if you're going with this cultist side story, or not side story, but main story, it makes sense that there'd be actual people here who would be part of the cult. Because in the game they talk about this cult, but really the whole cult in the game is Christabel. Like in the first game, like that's it. It's a cult of one, basically. You don't see any other cultists in the entire game.
No, you don't.
So it does make sense for them to add actual townsfolk that are trapped here and that are so scared and of this world and everything, that they blindly follow this cult and Christabel's leadership. To just a just blindly radical level of devotion. So I was okay with it. It worked. I do think it worked, and added a different level to the.
It was just with the first time you see it as a fan of the franchise, you're missing half the fun of watching it with that, like those virgin eyes, because you're like, the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
What is going on? I don't remember this. You're almost annoyed, but you shouldn't be. But,
yeah,
but
I know what you mean.
You're a stuck-up prick, and you love video games.
It's that tug of war. Inner tug of war of like, I want to say 100% true to the source material, but I kind of like this because it makes sense in the movie form. But no, I have to say true to. I did that too. I go back and forth.
Yeah, I don't want to be too much of a snob, but I was like, the first time I was like, what the fuck? Because I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it. But yeah, I was a little butthurt at some weird changes like this, but then by the time the movie had ended, I was over it.
Okay, speaking of changes, let's talk about how the movie I think the movie did it really, really well, handling the change from Silent Hill to the other world for on-screen special effects. Outstanding, I think. The way it just kind of peels off and melts away, and the darkness world, as it is called, the darkness in the movie instead of the other world, but fantastic transitions they worked out in this movie. Just absolutely fantastic. And again, the other world was just straight ripped from the games.
Just spot on, man.
Just spot on. It's so good. Like everything, rusty metal, chain link fences and barbed wire and rust, and it just.
Rose is running, shit's trying to grab her from underneath. It's really good.
Really good. Again, like I said, they take all the creatures from number 2, which, but again, they keep the location. Like they keep Midwich School. The school is there. The pharmacy, Nathan's Drugs, which is on the map in the game, is there. They even keep when she's looking at the bus line, you can see they kept the names of the streets the same. There's Bachman and Bradley and what's it? I think is it. I forget the other name of the main street that they go through, but they kept all that stuff. That was really good.
Wasn't there couldn't you see the Burger Queen? Or do they talk about that in the next one? I thought you could see like the Burger Queen sign in the first one.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember that. I might have missed that. But like I said, they also have the bowling alley. Sybil mentions, like Brahms, the city over, and then they talk about the lake, which is in the in the games too, in Toluca County and Toluca Lake and all that stuff. So they do a good job there. The creatures again. Let's talk about them real quick because again they're all from number 2, but they really shine. Really start coming out in force and shine. Well, kind of immediately because you have the
right when they're about to.
We already talked about the burning baby thing, the dark. We already had those, but then we have they get cuffed, and then we get the first the armless man scene, which is so good. Like, that thing is
real good.
Real good. Again, the creature design, special effects, and makeup effects, just so good. And
Sybil
creepy,
just being a badass bitch during this, dude.
She's like, "What the fuck is that?" And she's like, but she holds her ground. Like, it just the way this thing. Like, especially that back shot of it where you can see like it's like bones or something like moving underneath its skin. It's just like, oh, it's so good. And then it spits out this like burning acid type stuff,
bile
that like burns through Sybil's helmet and jacket.
Yeah, first she throws her jacket off and then she shoots
helmet
him a
first.
bunch.
Helmet first.
Oh yeah, then the helmet and then the jacket. She's like, ugh.
Yeah,
it was awesome, dude.
It's so good. And then that's when she. And you also they did something different because they did bring back the as the armless man got closer, they did keep true to the radio static, like her police radio walkie-talkie started getting stacky, and not just hers, but Rose's cell phone that she had around her neck started getting all stacky too, which I thought was a nice including spreading out to not just the radio but to the cell phone too, giving that like alert system. And then after they shoot that thing, Sybil, Rose runs off, but Sybil, like that stack gets louder, and she looks through that chain link fence, and it's like a junker, but you could see, and it just like 3 or 4 more of those armless men just kind of aimlessly wandering around this dirt pile or this junk pile, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
I like how she's trying to talk to him.
Yeah,
she's like, "Hey, I'm a cop." I'm like, "Officer, blah blah blah." It makes me laugh.
And so we had those guys, and then in the school, they also included the swarm of giant bugs that you see in the the second game as well. Now they designed them a little differently in the movie, of course, because they update them and make them a little more presentable on a big screen.
They are fucking big.
They're massive in the movies. And also I like the touch they had, like the one when Sybil saves Rose and they lock themselves in the roof. The one bug gets in, it's on its back. You see it close up, and it's got like a weird, almost human-like face on it, and it's like, before she stomps on it and it explodes. Again, just great design, and of course, this is where we're first introduced to Pyramid Head for the first time.
Yeah.
Great introduction to Pyramid Head. You hear the dragging of this giant blade on the metal, which is just classic warning sign. It's like you hear that, and you're like, oh shit, you just know what's coming. It's like fuck. But then you don't even see it. Just the giant blade comes through the doors and starts ripping it apart. Just an excellent introduction of Pyramid Head.
And it's very much like it is in the second game when you first hear him. They don't stop him. Mm-mm. He just stops.
Yeah, he stops himself. He's like, all right, time to go.
Yeah, I can't remember if there was like the sounding of the bell, because this is right before they go to the church. I think it might have been the sounding of the bell.
The siren, I think, went off again.
Yeah, that like tells him, all right, I'm done. I got shit to go do. And he just stops, just like he does in the second game when you first have to fight him.
This little thing, you hear this?
Yeah,
it's so good. This is exactly so that goes on and off to indicate when the darkness or other world is coming, and I think going away too, if I remember correctly. But yes, Pyramid Head they don't stop him. Nobody ever stops. He just does his thing, and they did a great job with him too. Like, he looks properly intimidating and scary as shit. Like, not the type of thing you want to mess with or deal with. So other than that, like, those are kind of, I think, and then of course they do incorporate the nurses from the second game as well in the first movie, much later near the ending. But
sexy nurses.
So in the end, and other characters from Lisa Garland makes the cameo appearance at the end of this movie as well.
She does.
So another character from the first game. She never speaks. You never know her name's Lisa. The only way you really know her name's Lisa is if you're a fan of the games.
Right.
You instantly recognize who that is. So all that combined, again, great representation from the game. But let's go back to like the plot of this again. Is that instead of Harry taking, God, we just talked about like 2 weeks ago. I was already forgetting. But in the game, were they going to Silent Hill, or were they just
Yeah,
passing through?
They
and
were
it
going to
happened?
Silent Hill. They were going to visit the resort because it's a resort town.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they were going on vacation.
All right.
Because his wife had just died not too long ago, and yeah, they were going to go on like a vacation. That's why they were going there. But in this one, Sharon is having all these nightmares about Silent Hill, and Rose is like, I'm going to fucking take her.
Yeah.
And Sean Bean is like, this is a bad idea. So then Rose is just like, no, we're going to do it anyway. It's our adopted daughter, and I'm taking her, and you can't stop
right?
me.
Just,
That's essentially how it starts.
it is, exactly.
So that's how they end up in
Sorry,
Silent Hill.
I ain't listening to you, husband. I'm doing what I want.
Exactly.
So basically, there's Sharon has some kind of connection to Silent Hill and has these nightmares, so they take her there to try to figure out what's going on. And that's when we start figuring out that Sharon is connected to Alessa, and you start learning the whole backstory of the town, Alessa, and what they did. And my God, let's talk about that's a fucked up scene when Christabel and Town get the flashback scene when they get Alyssa and they're in that like hotel room, which is weird. It's in a hotel room, by the way, but they have this like big, like they strapped this kid to like this metal plate over like this giant brazier of like burning coals and embers and basically burning her alive, like slow cooking her or something like that.
Very reminiscent of Temple of Doom.
It's disturbing. It's creepy. It's scary when you think about it. It's fucking disturbing. But then, the chain snaps and the plate she's on falls, and which knocks over the brazier, which catches the room on fire, and that starts the big ass fire that burns everything down.
Burns Silent Hill, and it's still burning to this day.
Although they say in the movie, they say it's not necessarily from that. They say it was a coal mine on fire underneath the city that's still burning. At least in the World War, that's what the story is. Which
I just always assumed it was this.
That's why I thought it too. That's why I was confused. I wanted to talk about that because I don't know if that was just maybe I missed something, that this actually started the fire that somehow led to the coal mine, or if
maybe they're underground. Because I don't remember, like, it's in a room, but I don't remember if the room is.
I don't think so, because if the whole point is like when they get to the hotel, they're talking about. Okay, first of all, let's backtrack a bit. Let's go back to the school for a second, because in the school, in the bathroom, Rose finds this corpse wrapped up in barbed wire in a stall with this knife that says "Dare you, double dare you," something like that, and with an arrow. And she pulls out like something out of his mouth, which I think was. I don't know if that was the room key or something that led her to the hotel.
No, you got to get the jelly beans and then you open.
Yeah, she get the jelly beans. They did not have jelly beans in the movie. Damn it, I missed that. So anyway, yeah, but apparently it leads them to the hotel, and it was room 111. That was the big thing.
That's right.
Room 111.
Right.
So it had to be on the first floor.
Yeah.
Which they find had been hidden now behind a big painting, the entrance to that room. So it's like if the fire started in a hotel room, did it somehow then
maybe
lead
it was
to
just a cover-up story?
Yeah,
I
wonder if there's a cover-up story or if there's just, I don't know. It's a little confusing on that part, but regardless, is the town supposedly still burning underneath, and that's why nobody lives there, and it started the whole fire. But that's how it started, supposedly, at least in that flashback when they were trying to burn Alessa for being a witch. And then, so basically, Alessa. Sharon finds and Sybil, they meet up and with Christabel in the church. I'm all over the place, but goddamn, we gotta talk about the church scene. So they're running back from I guess it was the school area, and on the way, Sybil and Rose run into this Silent Hill native, if you will, called Anne, who kind of helps her lead them around through things. And they get back to the church, and on the way back to the church, the siren goes, and everything starts going to the other world again, and everybody's freaking out. Anne, who gets caught on the steps of the church by Pyramid Head, who shows up. It's fucking awesome.
Oh,
it's so good. One of the he grabs Anne. Pyramid Head grabs her like one hand, lifts her up by her neck or something like that. Rips off all of her clothes in one swipe, just grabs and rips them all off. And as she's there naked, then he grabs her like right between the tits, like right on the chest, and like twists her skin in his hand and like rips her skin off in one fluid motion. Blood flays everywhere. And he just, as Sybil and Rose enter the church and close the door, he throws the Anne's skin sack up against the door, just covering everybody in blood, and just tosses Anne's body. Like, that was an awesome scene. Like, that was impressive. Again, it's like, holy shit.
That was good.
So good. And that's when they meet Christabel and they get more backstory about all this. And
I will say once they get to the church, the whole cult and Sharon Alyssa thing, which wasn't even really clear in the game, is not made any clearer in the movie. I can't say that it's any more confusing. It's equally as confusing because, one, you already have a story that you're very familiar with if you've played the game a couple of times. In this one, they don't really stick to that because it's a marriage of the first and second game.
Yeah.
But it's equally as confusing. It's on the same footing with it because even before I was leaving here, I was like, how the fuck did that movie end? I'm like, I know it ended. I just watched it like last week, but for whatever reason, I'm like, I don't remember how it ends because it just, I remember things. Yeah. Like, I remember where they are, but I'm like, how did they get to that point?
Yeah. I watched these again today, sort of. I had them on kind of in the background while I was doing other stuff. But, okay, let's jump to let's just talk about, Christabel sends Rose and Sybil along with some of her henchmen, lackeys, to the hospital where the demon lives. And they always like, no one's ever comes back from a demon. No one ever returns for the heart of the demon. But if you want to go, I'm not going to stop you. So she instructs her lackeys to take them all to the entrance to the other world, to the heart of the demon, and then return. So they go to the hospital, get to the elevator shaft, and Christabel stops right before they go in. Christabel's like, hey, we've lived so long as scavengers, I kind of forget, but this is yours, and hands it back this locket that came off her neck in the church. And when Christabel hands it back to Rose, it opens up and she sees a picture of Sharon in it, and instantly think who is identical to Alessa. So Christabel freaks like, oh my God, she's a witch. She's one with the devil or whatever. Burn her. So her men turn on her. They try to stop her. Sybil goes into badass mode here. Just pulls out her Sybil baton, starts kicking everybody's ass.
For a little bit.
For a little bit.
She gets a fucking red ass beat down.
Oh, it's brutal. It's hard to watch. So Sybil gets Rose into the elevator and is like, go find your daughter, and shuts the door and sends Rose down by herself. Which I do have a question about in this coming up on that. I'll try to come back about that because I watched it today. I was like, wait a minute. This could have been avoided, I think. But so she pulls out her gun, has them all at gunpoint when she sends Rose down. And then pulls the trigger, and she's out because she used the last bullet to quiet down the crowd in the church. And that's when Sybil gets beat down by the cultist lackeys.
The Harry Wardens.
Yes.
Beat the shit out of her.
And that's all you see of her for a while. And then so Rose goes down to the basement, finds the heart of the demon, which is basically Alessa's hospital room, where she was kept in the hospital after she was rescued from the burning attempt of her when they tried to murder her, sacrifice her.
Which is another scene that you see that's from the first game. There's that hospital room where you get the flashback of the Dr. Kaufman and all that standing over her.
And this is where, again, you got Lisa Garland here in this room still attending to her, because in the game, Lisa Garland was Alessa's nurse, and their whole thing, so they kept that true. And they find Rose finds Alessa in a hospital bed, burnt and all fucked up, basically in this weird half, like alive but dead but spirit thing. I don't it gets weird, whatever you want to call her at this point. If she's human, demon, ghost, whatever, and that's when it starts saying that Alessa or Sharon was somehow the good half of Alessa that she somehow let out of her body, or let her that the good half of her soul escape and put into a baby, basically, and which was then adopted from the orphanage by Rose and Christopher, and that became Sharon, and that's why she's drawn back to say, hey, because her soul is half Alessa, I guess, the good part of Alessa. And then that's basically the story from the first game anyway. They kept that. So at one point though, the ending, Alessa tells Rose the whole story of what happened, and you see everything. And Rose like, that's fucking terrible. These people are awful. I'm so sorry this happened to you. How can I help you? Basically, and at that, like, somehow Sharon or Alessa bleeds somehow, and a little bit of blood gets onto Sharon. Some of Alessa's blood.
They're attacking her. They're trying to burn her because they've just burnt Sybil.
No, we're not. Yeah, we haven't gotten there. They're still in the hospital at this point. But somehow Alessa attaches herself to Rose.
You're right.
Somehow. I forget exactly how. And Rose goes back. At this point, Sybil now is strung up on a ladder, which is weird instead of just a post or, I don't know, but a weird ladder.
A very big, tall ladder.
Very big. I was like, that seems more effort than what it's worth. Why would you just get a post like the old days?
Yeah, why don't you just start the fire around her?
Yeah, I was like, well, this is way more elaborate.
Oh my God, no, this is slow rotisserie Sybil.
Yeah. So they're like, we're going to burn Sybil and we're going to kill her. And they do. They slowly lower her down over the fire and she burns and blisters. And again, the special effects are disturbing. It bothered me to watch it from like, oh God.
It's hard to see because she's not set directly on fire. Like,
no,
she dies from the heat rising from this giant bonfire they make underneath her, which also is cooking her.
Yes.
And then it boils her skin. Like, she's not just like instantly set aflame. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen this a million times. Like, she's slowly cooked.
Yes.
And it's hard to watch.
It is it's very to this day. I still have a hard time with that scene because it is so disturbing and so, like, those deaths kind of like get hit home. Like, that's a terrifying way to go. Like, this, it's awful.
It's an excellent scene.
Again, that's why I brought back when I talked to her at Con, like, that scene, you crushed it so hard. Like, that's gotta be so hard to do. You're tired of this thing, and she's like, you guys are crazy. Like, fuck you. And like, you're all insane. And why are you doing this? And don't listen to her. And she's just like, she just gets burnt and melted. Basically, just bubbles up and just die. It's awful.
That's top 2 on par with Kurt Russell drowning in Poseidon.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking hard to watch.
It's very hard to watch. At this point, but that's what I want to talk about. Before I forget, because I think like, when I watched it, I was like, could that have been avoided? I think so. Because when they're at the elevator, she beats them all down with the baton, and then she pulls out her gun, and everybody's like, "Oh shit, she's got a gun!" And they don't attack her; they all back the fuck off.
Right? She could have just backed herself.
She could have backed herself into the elevator, hit the button, and gone down with Rose. Would have lived, but instead she pulls the bar holding the elevator doors out and sets it down, and then pulls the trigger on her empty gun, knowing she has there's no bullets.
Less exciting.
And she's like. And she gives these people like a shit-eating green, like, yeah, fuck you, and gets her ass beat and killed. But she easily could have lived. She could have just backed into the elevator and gone.
Well, then we wouldn't have got this sweet scene.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got the disturbing kill. So anyway, Rose comes back at the ending, the big finale. Rose comes back, confronts Christabel, and it's really good. She's like, your faith is a lie. You're all evil. You guys are terrible people. You all deserve to die. Blah, blah, blah. But then Christabel, and at this point, Sharon is now tied up to a ladder. They're going to do the same thing to her that they did to Sybil. That's the whole thing. She's tied up now next in line. And she's like, Mommy, don't. And Christabel stabs Rose in, like, the shoulder, like, upper chest.
This is where it gets confusing.
Yeah. So she stabs Rose. Rose drops seemingly dead as they start preparing to lower Sharon down onto the fire. But that's when Rose's blood drips out of her shoulder onto the floor of the church. That's why, because they said Alessa could not enter the church on her own because of Christabel's wards or the hallowed grounds of a church. So she could not enter. She needed a vessel.
Spells and magic.
Yeah, just spell magic. So in comes, that's what Rose is. So Rose's blood falls onto the floor, and when it hits the floor, Alessa's essence comes out with it and spreads throughout the floor. It turns everything black, and the whole, like, the front of the church is like falls away into the other world, and the fiery darkness world rises up, and Alessa in her fucking hospital bed rises up in this like poison ivy like thing of barbed wire. It's kind of like, imagine poison ivy and just, ivy and vines coming out of something. Just replace poison ivy with Alessa and the vines with barbed wire.
Yeah, think Uma Thurman, but it's barbed wire
Yes.
instead of plants.
Yes. And the barbed wire spreader, people are going insane, crazy. The barbed wire attacks Christabel, wraps her up in the arms, lifts her up. The worst part is when the barbed wire, I'm assuming it goes up her vag, because it clearly shows the barbed wire go up in between her legs. Yeah, and that's got to be, God. Eventually, the barbed wire rips Christabel in half, which, again, awesome looking effect. Blood just pours down. She's split in two. The barbed wires are killing everybody.
It's like shredding them like a blender.
Yeah,
it's neat.
It's just massacre here. While Rose gets to Sharon, unties her, and basically holds her like, don't look, blah, blah, blah. And pretty much that's it. Rose, I think, or Sharon opens her eyes at one point, and that's the big finale. Lastly, they walk back to their car. They find the car. It starts up. They drive home. And this time, they're actually able to drive through the fog and return home. But the whole time they're driving, they're in the fog. That's the big thing. They get home. They're in the fog. They get into their house. It's foggy. Christopher, Sean Ben's in the house sleeping on the couch. But again, you can tell they're in two different planes of existence. They're not there. And that's how it ends. They're in the ghost world, and Sean Bean wakes up, sees the doors open from them coming in, but goes outside. Their car's not there, and it's bright and sunny, and it's like, huh. And that's the end of the movie.
Because there's this entire B plot with Christopher and the cop.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but he's the one that rescued
Inspector Gucci.
Alessa,
Yes.
but then also is responsible for helping the orphanage get Sharon adopted by Chris and Rose. So it's for his part, I think, goes on a little too long, which is why the movie is 2 hours. You could have cut that down quite a bit, but he was a big draw at the time for sure. But I do like is that in several scenes, him and Chris and Rose are in the same place in Silent Hill.
Yes.
And she sometimes is not in the Nightmare Darkness world, right? Yeah. She's in just foggy Silent Hill. And he's in sunny Silent Hill. And they're outside of the hospital or the school.
The scene in the school is my wife's been here. I can smell her perfume.
Yes. Yeah. And they're in the exact same spot, but they cannot see each other. And the camera keeps cutting back and forth to each one. And it's really cool. So that really helps sell that ending when the door opens, but she's not there. Yes. And Chris is like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. So kind of a depressing ending, but that's basically the movie. One thing I want to ask you before I go on to our odds and ends and all this trivia stuff and bits and pieces I have for fun. Now, I've seen this kind of debated online and somewhere, but I want to know what your thoughts on it are. Do you, because Silent Hill, the game, is 100% considered survival horror game, but some people, do you consider Silent Hill the movie a horror movie, or do you consider it something else?
It's definitely a horror movie, just from the sheer body count towards the end, but it's not your traditional. It's very much more of a psychological horror, but also a body horror.
Thank you. That's what. Yeah, I agree with you. That's. I'm glad you're thinking the same thing I do. I 100% think, I do think it's a horror movie. It's definitely it's technically not like a slasher or anything like that, but. I mean, if people are considering Wicker Man a horror movie, then this is definitely a horror movie. Because there are when she first enters Silent Hill and she gets attacked with those burning baby kids, that's some scary shit. The monsters are there. I mean, it's very in the body horror, the disfigurations. I do think this is a horror movie. Just it's different type than what I guess most people would consider when you first think of a horror movie. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad we're on the same page. I appreciate that you
definitely
think
a horror
movie.
You can't see a giant man with a huge sword rip the skin off a bitch and not go, oh, this is just a thriller.
Let's kind of move on to we'll wrap up the first movie here. We'll go into our basic odds and ends stuff here.
Just when you thought it was over, here comes the odds and ends.
All right, so ratings, IMDb gives it a 6.5 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, it only got a 32% on the thermometer, but has a 63% audience score. So that's pretty good for audience score, right, for this. Amazon gives it a 4.6 out of 5. Plot keywords, again, I'm really surprised to see this one here, but we got psychotronic, so drop the beat, boo, 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 boo. This one I put a question mark behind because I wasn't sure what the fuck this was. but a plot keyword first is Alliance Atlantis. I don't know what the fuck that is, but that's a plot keyword on IMDb for this movie.
I have no idea.
Also, biopunk, which not steampunk, but biopunk. Is that because like the guys are wearing hazmat suits and it's like a metal world, like made of rusty metal? Is that supposed to be biopunk?
Yeah, it's like Tetanus, the planet.
Yeah, Tetanus, Planet Tetanus. I don't know.
Yeah,
Again, I think that's kind of lame. Pyramid Head character, Barcelona chair. That is a plot keyword. Again, not really sure what that is. Did not look that up. And sexy nurse. Again, strange boners for people who strange awkward boners.
When I find out what movies you guys are trying to do, I try to see if I can manipulate the IMDb plot keywords. So I tried to get skinless bitch up there, but it did not take.
That's hilarious. Okay, so there was a lot of trivia for this movie, and I didn't even write. I skipped a lot of it. I left a lot of it undone because there was so much. But some of the things I wrote down is it did apparently, and you can chime in for any of this stuff you had that I don't have, or you heard contradicting points too. But so apparently it took director Christopher Gaines 5 years to obtain the rights to make the film. He was given the rights after he sent Konami a video of an interview describing how much Silent Hill meant to him. Along with the interview, he sent scenes that he filmed on his own dollar, cut up and overlaid with the music from the games. It's kind of like a, here's what I can do, here's what I like thing.
And the music is excellent.
The music is excellent.
And it's very much the game's
music.
It is
pretty much the exact same. The only thing they really changed in the movie, because they wanted something, more recognizable to the general population, is they added Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
In the diner when she wakes up. But other than that, it's pretty much all the game music for the most part. The guy who played Pyramid Head, Roberto Campanella, wore 15-inch heels to make him closer to 7 feet tall. That had been a bitch to walk in.
15-inch heels to make him closer to 7
He's a
feet.
tiny little man.
So he's 5'6".
Yeah.
7 maybe.
He was just like the nurses. He was a dancer, so somebody who could move his body and contort it like they needed to. But at the same time, like, why don't you just get a bigger person? Pyramid Head's a big fucking guy.
Yeah.
It would have saved you a lot on one. You don't need to have him in heels, and two, probably cut down a lot of the makeup and bodysuit you would need to make this little guy look huge.
Like, why don't you just fucking tap Kevin Nash for a little bit?
Yeah, get him in there.
Like, that guy likes to eat.
This was kind of cool. I should mention it earlier, but it's very subtle in the movie. Eric, you may have picked up on this, but if not, it's something kind of cool.
Is there a gas leak in here? Because I don't know who this Eric guy is.
Oh yeah, I don't know either. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Cincinnati Jeff. There we go. Let me refresh my mind. But in the movie, so Rose, when she at the beginning of the movie, she first said she's wearing like kind of like a tan or beige and gray skirt and shirt with a little sweater thing on. But by the end of the movie, she's wearing it's all red and rusty and red colors. And they transition it perfectly. It's so subtle that you don't even realize her costume is changing till it already has. But because there's 100 different copies of Rose's outfit were made for this. Because she said she starts out with soft summery colors, and as the movie progresses, they become grayer, and eventually the blood red. Like I said, unless you really pay attention to it, it's not really noticeable, but it's kind of a cool little.
I did notice that.
It's a very cool little effect that they do.
That is cool though, because I definitely remember her being so clean and neat looking.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, she's disgusting, but I was like, man, somewhere between there's got to be changes. I remember when she's down running from the bugs, she's obviously rolling around on the ground. So I guess it's all that.
And then
stuff,
the first start of the blood, when she gets sprayed by Anna's blood in church, she starts getting reddy patches, and then when she goes to other places, it gets darker and redder, and yeah, it's just very gradual and subtle change.
Pay attention to that.
It's really kind of cool. Centralia, Pennsylvania was the inspiration for the movie adaptation of the game. Researching different elements of Silent Hill, screenwriter Robert Abey came across the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania, that almost abandoned town with a 40-year-old coal fire burning underneath it. Centralia planted the seed for what developed into the cinematic version of the town of Silent Hill. So yeah, that is true because I've actually watched like a documentary on that town about how the coal fire is still burning underneath it. It's pretty crazy. Like I said, man, the creatures were dancers. We already talked about that, guys. Okay, so this is interesting. Sign Hill School is called Midwich Elementary. Apparently, Midwich is also the fictional town in Village of the Damned, 1960, and John Carpenter's 1995 remake. Both are based on the original novel, The Midwich Cuckoos, which was written by John Wyndham and published in 1957.
That is true.
So I did not know that until I looked at this. So that's kind of cool.
That's getting a remake movie soon.
Village of the Damned?
Yeah, which would be called The Midwich Cuckoos.
Midwich Cuckoos? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Let's see. The Empty Rooms, that's stupid. I'm not even going to cover that one. Christopher Gans was irritated by Radha Mitchell's approach to acting many times during filming, which typically involved her needing several shoots before she could fully get into character. Apparently, in the DVD commentary, Gans states that it was especially difficult to film scenes with Radha and co-star Laurie Holden due to their very different acting techniques. So I could understand that would be a pain. If
one was like a joy to work with, the other's just a bitch.
Yeah, or not necessarily a bitch, but just way too like. I need to, channel. I need to get this right, and almost maybe I won't say a perfectionist, but kind of a, yeah.
She's a Midwest mom, so she's got 2 pairs of shoes. So fucking take 2 pairs of shoes in, and that's it. We don't need to try on hundreds.
Yes. Radha Mitchell also apparently got punched in the face by one of the nurses during filming the scene in the basement hospital by accident. Production character.
I always like hearing stories like that.
So we talked about the music was all from the game, composed by Akira Yamaoka. However, the film's production contract required that a Canadian composer be involved. To remedy this, Dana, who I guess was the composer, was hired to remix Yokomogo's tracks. So they kept the original music, but you had a Canadian producer or musician remix them a little bit for the movie to get around a loophole in that contract.
It's a weird clause in a contract.
Yeah.
You can use the game music, but it has to be redone by a Canadian. Holding balloons in his left hand. Drinking Cambodian breast milk.
Now, this is a weird one. And I'm glad it did not work out if this is true. Apparently, Christopher Gans, I don't know, I keep fucking up, originally apparently wanted Cameron Diaz to play the role of Sybil Bennett. And I gotta say, I am glad that did not happen.
Worked out.
I agree. That would have been terrible casting, I think. Because I don't know. Because this is 2006. This was like, at this point, Cameron Diaz was just a comedic actress. She was like, something about Mary, and there's another big one that she was in that was of comedy. But I cannot have seen her in
Charlie's
this role.
Angels.
Charlie's Angels, and was it Shallow Hal? Was that she in that one?
No, that's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Okay, there was another one I can't remember, but yeah, I'm so glad that Cameron Diaz did not end up getting that part. That I think would have ruined it.
Is the director's name Gaines?
It's Gaines or Gans? Gans. So Gans or Gaines?
Okay, I would say Gans. When you say Chris Gaines, it reminds me of when Garth Brooks.
Put
on the wig.
Yeah. So Sony Pictures acquired the United States and Latin American distribution rights to this for $14 million. This film was also included in Roger Ebert's most hated list, having given the film a 1.5 stars.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck Roger Ebert, man, in his list.
Glad they're dead.
So this is just not that great, but the majority of the dancers hired to play the nurses in the film were in the same dance company that provided the background dances for Jessica Alba's film Honey. So there's the weird little connection. And where is it? Okay, so this was a weird ending they came up with. They didn't use it obviously because they went with I think was the much better option. But so the original ending in the script was supposed to have Dark Alessa float up as she did in the final cut. However, instead of barbed wire killing everyone in the church, multiple pyramid creatures were to appear and slaughter everyone. But due to budget limits, the barbed wire ended up as the final scene. I gotta say, I'm kind of glad. I think that barbed wire scene is so iconic and so awesome that I'm glad it wasn't just multiple pyramids. Because I also think like having one pyramid is impressive and intimidating enough, and kind of like makes him special. He's just like the one guy. If you would have made multiple ones, it would have diminished, I think, his impact, like or taken away from how important I think he is to the,
It didn't help in Silent Hill 3 when they fight each other and shit.
Yeah.
So
I didn't like that at all.
Much better. They're much better off with just like the one guy.
Yeah.
This tortured soul who's got to wear this giant pyramid on his head and apparently wear lifts and carry a giant sword.
Yeah.
Much better.
Which again, that does take away. It does break the lore of the games in number 2. But again, these aren't exactly word for word, because Pyramid 2 was a creation of James's psyche, and obviously that James isn't. They don't do that storyline here. But that's just some of the. There was a lot of other stuff that I skipped over just for save time on. But I don't know if did you have anything else before we move on that you know of about the movie?
So the only thing that I know of is that the reason that they had to incorporate so many of the iconic monsters from 2 as opposed to the first one is because honestly, the first one is very lacking on those monsters, and 2 to that reason is because the monsters they do have like the weird air screamers and like the gorilla type things that jump out at you, like they were like so goofy looking.
Yes,
like they would not we could not put this on camera. It would not transfer well, right?
Yeah.
It's like this weird hairless dragon
dog, and then
dog
the dog
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just so they were like, let's go with number 2. Obviously, 2 is more remembered as being iconic. So you really, when you think of back to Silent Hill, both the movie and the game, like you instantly think obviously Pyramid Head and the nurses. You don't really think too much of the enemies from the first.
You really don't. And I think again, that was a very smart decision that they made to do that. Even with regards to the budget, they should have done that anyway. Because I think
because by this time 4 was out, so you had a whole lot of things to choose from.
Great. I never played 4, so I don't know what the creatures were like in 4, but
They suck.
I'm so glad they went with 2, and that is when you think of Silent Hill monsters. That's my brain goes to the ones in 2 first. Yeah, Pyramid Head, the nurses, the bugs, the armless men, all that stuff.
And the armless men for sure, because you see those almost right out the gate in the second one. But you just those leg mannequins.
The leg mannequins.
Really,
yep.
Really want to see that. Like a deleted scene of just fucking some 5'6" dancer just going to town on these fucking leg mannequins. And then he's like, I gotta go. I gotta get the sets for honey.
All right. That said, though, let's move on and let's do a quick budget game here.
It's now time to play everyone's favorite game, Guess the Budget.
Sorry, I forgot to turn the volume down on that. I apologize if that was really loud to everybody. Anyway, Eric, you may already know this, so you can tell me if you do or if you want to lie and just go for it anyway. We can do that as well. But I don't know if you know the budget for
don't.
this. Okay.
I truly don't.
All right.
I do.
Okay.
No, I don't. Now you don't know where I'm coming from.
That just reminds me, just for a particular listener later, penis. All right, let's move on. What's your guess for the budget for the original Silent Hill movie?
All right, 2006. I'm gonna go with it. $55 million.
$55 million. Okay. We have other numbers to guess too, but we'll start with that one. And you chose $55 million. So survey says, show me $55 million.
You have chosen wisely.
Oh, really?
You have. Budget was $50 million.
Holy shit!
So you got it pretty much right on.
Wow.
Good
job.
job.
I swear I didn't know that was a guess, but I just kind of figured with a lot of this CGI, no real practical effects, it had to be somewhere up there.
Yeah. So let's move on to opening weekend in U.S. and Canada. What it made its opening weekend? What do you think it made?
Opening weekend in the U.S. And this was back when opening weekend actually meant Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'm gonna guess opening weekend $11 million.
$11 million. All right, let's see what you got this time. Show me $11 million.
You chose poorly.
Close, but not as close. I can't give you one. Opening weekend was $20,152,598. Moving on to gross U.S. and Canada, and we have gross worldwide too. So we have two more numbers.
Okay.
We'll start with gross U.S. and Canada.
Gross U.S. and Canada, I'm going to go ahead and say it made $47 million.
47 million. All right, 47 million. Let's see what you get.
You have chosen wisely.
Nice.
Opening gross U.S. and Canada, 46,982,632. So just like
that could have won me both showcases.
Yeah, you were like 20,000 short.
God damn, I'd have won both showcases. This is The Price is Right.
So good job there, man. You're 2 for 3. Now gross worldwide. How much did it make total? Worldwide?
Gross worldwide. So franchise was big in Japan, but it was made by the Americans. I'm gonna go ahead and say under 100 million, so 87 million.
87 million. Oh, okay. What? This is kind of a tough choice here. But I'm okay. All right. We'll go.
You chose poorly.
But close. Very close. For a worldwide total gross was $100,605,135.
Wow, I'd see it. I did choose poorly.
If you were going to get like 95, 90, 95, I probably would have given you the
yeah,
one. But
I didn't think it made 100 million, so that's me.
So you 50%. You got 2 out of 4. Pretty good there. Pretty good. You want to go on to hear some reviews of this movie real quick before we move on to number 3?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do that.
At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall.
Good versus bad. Right versus wrong. Light versus dark. In the end, when the dust settles, who will be left standing after Mortal Kombat combat? All
right. So, 8,088 total reviews on Amazon for Silent Hill 1. 76% are 5-star reviews. So impressive. With only 3% 1-star. Kind of surprised by that. I wrote down 4 of each. I wrote 4 5s and 4 1s to try to keep it even. So, honestly, I did not go through all 8,000. I did not have the time to do that. So there may be funnier ones or better ones out there I did not get to. But some from Sabrina, literally my new favorite horror movie. So this movie was interesting because it had a video game feel to it, but with live actors, not animation. And with the most unbelievably unimaginable creatures, it is a horror lover's horrific horror flick. Beautiful, strong, fearless women battling in an ever-changing setting. Well, in real life, you lose your mind. On your couch, you are sure to label this your next favorite, a classic 5 stars. Speaking of which, there's one trivia thing I want to mention. Talk about the women of this, though. There was some kickback about the cast. After, like, us, one of the screenings or something, one of the producers had an issue, got the original script, Sean Bean and I think the detective weren't in it. And so one of the producers or somebody was like, we have an all women, you got to add some men. You got to add a little bit of variety because it was just all female.
Added that B-plot.
Yeah, they added that in as kind of a secondary.
I remember hearing something about that.
So from Eric, usually when someone tries to capitalize on popularity of a video game, Eric, you did say you tried to intervene with what we're doing, but so anyway, so usually when someone tries to capitalize on the popularity of a video game by bringing it to the silver screen, it fails miserably. This one is one of the few video game movie adaptations that is actually good. For a 15-year-old movie, it holds up incredibly. This is what cross media should strive towards. 5 stars. Benita Rouse. This movie is very good capture of the Silent Hill world. It is definitely worth a look. It would have been perfect if it had not gone into the religious storyline. You have to see the nurse scene and Pyramid Head, the star of the show, and not enough of For me, this one is one of the best adaptations of video game, almost but not quite perfect. 5 stars.
What religious storyline? You have to have the cult.
Yeah, I'm like that's kind of, you talk about the game, but that was the whole game. Was
Maybe they would prefer the drug storyline.
Or yeah, I didn't find any drugs and motorcycles. I guess didn't like that. And lastly, from Sleeper Core, I've seen a lot of video game based movies in my time, and all of them never deserve any more than 1 star. But this movie is actually better than the original game. It was even spot on of how the game was played, or how the story was like masterfully in the best movie adaptations to a movie based of a video game I have ever seen. That's very poorly written. The mood was perfect. The flow of the story was historically accurate. A true masterpiece of a movie, even though the other 2 movies past this one was horrible. Again, bad grammar, 5 stars, and made me question 2 movies? I'm only aware of 1. Is there a third Silent Hill movie out there somewhere that I do not know about?
It's just this one and the other
That's
one.
what I said. So this guy, I don't know what he's talking about then. All right. Moving on to the 1 stars, the other side of that coin. From Robert G. You have to accept the premise of the plot if you want to immerse yourself in a story. This plot begins with a mother taking her disturbed daughter into a town that has been closed due to toxic conditions of an underground fire. This, despite her husband wanting to get help for the child. Throughout this movie, mother displays the same degree of intelligence awarded to a snail. I just couldn't buy the premise. 20 minutes in the movie, I was rooting for someone to arrest her or shoot her. Sadly, she dragged herself through 2 hours of mind-bogglingly dumb. 1 star. From Raining. This is one of those movies where you root for the demon because the main character is so stupid. And the whole white woman falling on the floor running from the demon is really played out. But the movie, she actually lived on the floor. It's that bad. It starts good, very interesting, but I got bad really quick and stayed. I don't know why this movie got so many positive reviews. To like this movie, you have to suspend absolutely all of your common sense and intelligence. Don't waste your time watching this movie. It's a joke. Don't say I didn't warn you. 1 star.
I kind of hope that person gets Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah. From Anonymous. You pussy.
Just say what you're going to say.
Say it. Own it up. Own to it. One of the most disturbing films I've watched in a while. I think most of the people writing rave reviews about this film must be either psychologically disturbed or just plain evil. Horrible plot as well. I really wish I could unsee this movie. Movies like this remind me of how disgusting Hollywood really is. 1 star. Now, I beg to differ. That movie review actually would make me want to watch this movie. Most disturbing film I've ever watched. Gross, the psychological disturbing. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, that makes me, bad movie. Obviously, somebody's never seen Curse of the 49er or Lake Fear 3.
Yeah, Lake Fear 3. Or Camp Murder.
Night of the Dribbler.
I was just about to go Night of the Dribbler. And lastly, we have an 80s celebrity in here. Apparently, he hacked the server somehow. From Max Headroom. Disjointed stream of consciousness junk. 1 star. All right, so that's Silent Hill 1. I would say for our final thoughts, Eric. Go ahead. You better your final breakdown on Silent Hill before we move on to the sequel.
So, like I said before, the bad parts of it is the ending is a little confusing. It's a little weird. She rises up from the hospital bed. It's just very disjointed at that point. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because then there's Alyssa coming out of Rose. Also, there's Alyssa in the hospital bed that raised up from the ground, and then there's a third one which is Sharon suspended from the fucking ladder. All that's just really going on. That alone was a problem for me because again, some people even said, hey, it's confusing, but you do just suspension of disbelief. You're just like, whatever, it somehow works. I don't need it to be explained to me exactly, because the rest of the movie was pretty freaking kick-ass.
Yes.
I didn't have any problems with it as far as that stuff goes. The shots line up really well when they first entered Silent Hill. I very much felt like I was there from that part of the game. So that was awesome. So, man, I don't have a lot of bad to say about it other than it can be a little confusing for a newcomer. This is definitely made for fans of the franchise. So it's not open like Resident Evil was, where it's just anybody could come in and see it, and they fucking made yeah, made 7 or fucking 8 of those goddamn things, or however many there fucking exist. because it's an everyman's action movie, right? This was more about the fans, and I liked that, and that's what really helped me really get into it and come to really enjoy it, because this next one that we're going to talk about.
Hold on to your thought on that one.
Yeah.
I agree with you, everything you said. I think this movie did a great job. I did go when I went back to watch this because I forgot it was 2 hours long. Like, damn, I don't remember being that long.
It is fucking over 2 hours. It's long.
Yeah. So there might be a few things they could have cut down on a little bit. But at the same time, you're talking about being confusing. I think the B plot was kind of needed a little bit to try to explain some of it a little bit, to try to tie it all together. I didn't hate it, but maybe they could have gotten to Silent Hill a little faster in the beginning, or just they could have started on the road there or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I think they did a great job. I said it before. I think this is one of the best video game adaptations to a movie out there. It had the look, the feel, the horror, the intensity of the games when you first see it. Of the other world and the creatures, and just how fucked up and disturbing and scary it would be to be in that environment. The creatures looked great. The special effects were great. The music was spot on. I don't understand like the negative reviews. The negative reviews were so bad on this. I don't get it. The confusion's there though. There is confusion. Like if you never played the games that went in this, I could definitely see people like, what the fuck? Because even if you play the game, you're still kind of like, what the fuck? But they kept true to the first story of the game, and I give them credit for that. And that ending scene is epic. It's awesome. So I think well done. I totally recommend Silent Hill 1. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, go check it out. I think it really holds. I think it still holds up today too. I don't think it's not someone's like aged poorly. I think it holds up. I think they did a great job with it. And it's still one of my favorite franchises still because of it. So, all right, that is Silent Hill 1. All right, so let's move on to Silent Hill 3. All right, Silent Hill 3. This is I love this music. I think this is it's from the game, but
when you say Silent Hill 3, you mean the next movie?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Silent Hill. I'm thinking 3 the game. That's Silent Hill 2 the movie based on Silent Hill 3 the game.
Thank you. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm a little confused though. I
Silent Hill Revelation.
Revelation. All right, so I just want to jam to the music for a little bit. All right, I'll fade it out. I just think it's catchy music.
Sounds like you too.
I
said it last time too.
I never realized that, but yeah, I can kind of see that. Now I'm never gonna stop thinking that. Mm-hmm. You ruined that for me. Thank you. Anyway, Silent Hill.
I didn't ruin it for you. Bono did. Blame his Irish ass.
All right, Silent Hill 2 Revelation was released on October 12th of 2012, so 6 years after the first movie. Written by M.J. Bassett and Laurent Hadida, and also directed by M.J. Bassett, who's got 27 directing credits. He currently is the one assigned to direct the remake of Red Sonja, which is in pre-production right now. So that could be interesting. But he's mostly a TV director. He's got shows. He's directed shows as Ash vs. the Evil Dead. It's basically the biggest one that most people probably heard of. The other shows I've never heard of, so I didn't even write them down. Fun fact, though, talks for the Silent Hill sequel began in December 2006, so right after the first movie, with Christopher Gans returning to direct and Robert Avery writing the script for the project. However, there is a bit of a problem. After Gans dropped out of directing, because Avery was imprisoned for vehicular manslaughter. Ooh, fucker killed a man with his car, apparently. The project entered a complicated production process. Later in early 2010, Bassett was hired to direct and write the film after everything. But yeah, I can't put a damper on things when your lead writer is in prison for vehicular manslaughter.
Screenwriters don't get away with that kind of shit. You got to be a rock star to kill somebody with a car. Like Vince Neil killed somebody. He only did 30 days.
Football defensive end.
There you go, right? Yeah, you're not famous enough when you're a screenwriter.
No. So that's an interesting little tidbit.
Rebecca Gayheart got away with it.
Yeah, she did. I always forget about that, but she did. You can find Silent Hill 2 right now on Hulu if you have the add-on subscription service. It's kind of a teaser dick move there. Sling TV, Fubo TV. I always want to say Fubu, but it's Fobo. Amazon Prime, YouTube, Google Play, Apple TV, Vudu, and the Roku channel are a place where you can find Silent Hill 2 at Revelation if you want to watch it.
Essentially, you got to pay for it to watch it.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah. Well, I think this could be interesting. This could be interesting.
I could tell earlier by the conversation where you were slightly defending what I was saying, and I was like, oh, this is going to be unique.
Yeah. So, cast rundown real quick. We have Heather/Cheryl, played by Adelaide Clemens. She's got 34 credits. She's Merla in Voltron, Legendary Defender, for you anime fans out there.
The new one?
I don't know. Voltron, Legendary Defender. I'm assuming it's the new one.
Yeah, it's got to be the new one. There's no way she was
because there's no way it was in the 80s, not the 80s ones. And she was Carnival Girl in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Big name.
Big name there. Vincent is played by everyone's favorite Night Watchman, Kit Harington. Harry is played by, again, Mr. I Always Die, Sean Bean. He comes back. Rose comes back as Rhoda Mitchells again. Claudia Wolf is played by Carrie Ann Moss. And then Leonard's played by Mr. fucking Malcolm McDowell. And Dahlia is played by Deborah Kara Unger again, who comes back. I didn't talk about her last time, but she got 67 credits as the time of this. She was in Christine with and she's in the Michael Douglas movie The Game. And for you Star Wars gaming fans out there, this one was kind of cool, I thought. She's the voice of Scorpio in the Star Wars MMO The Old Republic, which is a really awesome video game, one of my favorite games. I love it. I miss playing it. And she was also in Green Day's music video for Jesus of Suburbia as well.
I didn't even know that this was the same Dahlia from the first movie because she looks entirely different. And I don't mean like, bitch got older by 6 years different. Like, the character distinctively looks different. I'm pretty sure she's got a different hair color from blonde to like dark brown and like.
Well, in the first one, she was kind of a redheadish, I think, in the first movie.
It was a dark color for sure.
It was darker.
She's like silverish blonde in this one. We'll get to it.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. Okay. This is my odds and end bit stuff. I'll come into this later. So yeah. Okay. So let's just jump into number 2 / game 3. Like I said, this is based on the third game. Again, it goes back to the cult stuff, but follows a grown-up Cheryl, aka Sharon, who's now turning 18 when this movie starts.
And she's going by the name Heather.
She goes by the name Heather in this one, which I think was her original name in the game. What's the name she went by in the game?
In the game, she's Heather as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But she even said, they make a comment once. She's like, well, why Heather? Well, it doesn't matter because like. And Sean Bean's like, oh, it was my grandmother's name or something like that. And he's like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. I've been Sharon. I've been Mary, which is a reference to game number 2. Mm-hmm. I've been, Sharon. I've been Mary. I've been Cheryl. Now I got Heather. It's fine, whatever. So, and the whole premise of this is again like and again they do stick very well to the game for the most part. The movie opens with the nightmare scene in the amusement park, just like the game does. Only the difference is in the nightmare world, the nightmare dream she instantly has a meeting in her dream with her evil self, on which that's not in the game till much later. But we find she's with evil Alessa, evil Heather on the carousel. Which is powered by Pyramid Head. Apparently, Pyramid Head powers the carousel, which visually looks kind of cool. But when I stop thinking about it, I'm like,
I disagree. And here's why.
All right, this is gonna be an interesting conversation. I think we're going back and forth on this one.
Giant monster of a backup dancer, and you chain him to a carousel that he's got to manually crank.
Yeah.
It's all right already. I'm not scared. And he's like chained to it, but he's also like tied to it because he must have accidentally opened the lament configuration because he's got like wires and hooks and shit coming out of his back, and not like big meat hooks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. These are like fish hooks.
Yeah, they're
like
tiny
blood
fish
hook shit. I'm looking at blood hook posters here. And I'm like, what? This is this big menacing man, and he's been, now he's just like the monkey that turns the music box kind of thing.
I get what you're, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you first see it visually, it's like, oh, that's kind of a cool image, and I get where they're going. But when I agree with you though, when you stop and break it down like that, I 100% agree with you. It really kind of diminishes his importance, his I will say stature or intimidation effect. Like, it does. It turns him into basically a monkey turning a crane. So I agree with you 100% on that point.
At this point, you've got like 9 Hellraisers. It's like, we've seen this kind of shit. Do something original, like from the game. This whole whoever the director was, because Chris Gans
MJ Bennett
fucking dodged a bullet here. Probably got whiplash from running away from it so hard. Whoever put their spin on it, right? Because they're like, well, I gotta make it my own, whatever. And this is the kind of shit you get. And this is number one of many reasons of why I do not like this movie.
Oh, we're gonna have some hot takes here. We're gonna go back and forth on some of this. This is gonna be fun. All right, so she has a dream. She wakes up, only this time instead of waking up in a mall, a diner in a mall, she wakes up in her own bed screaming with Sean Bean coming in and like, it's okay, blah, 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 it's fine.
But it's not fine, because then he gets immediately stabbed by
Sean...
some sort of monster that's wearing the reverse bear trap from Saw.
Sort of, yeah.
And $55 million was the budget for the first movie. Got that imprinted in my brain.
Yep.
Now, you don't have to tell me till we get there, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that the budget was a hell of a lot less here.
I was just looking to see if I make sure I had everything, if I had it written down. Like, I do have that stuff for later.
Because the CGI here, granted, 2006 CGI for the first movie, not the best in the world, but honestly, some of the best of that time. It was good.
Yes.
Here, piss poor.
Well, one thing we should mention, I need to mention definitely out of the gate, is this one was also done in 3D at the time. This was a 3D movie, so it does, when you see these effects in the non-3D state, they do look a little weird, because you can tell, oh, that's probably supposed to be a 3D effect, so it makes it look a little weird when it's just on the flat screen. That could be part of the problem, maybe.
Well, if there's any future directors out there listening, let me tell you, all 3 times they've tried that 3D renaissance hasn't worked. Knock it the fuck off.
Not a fan of 3D movies, huh?
Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, fun, but it's gimmicky and I like it. Jaws 3D, super fun, again gimmicky, but overall, like, name me anything out of those two, other than those two, which you're like, it was great.
Bloody
3D.
Valentine 3D.
I did not care for that one in 3D.
You did not care for that one?
No, and I think it honestly looks better in 2D.
I'll probably agree with you on that one as well. I just wanted to throw it out there because I just wanted to think of.
But there you go. At least you named another one.
Well, I remember seeing like, it was like one of the like Marvel movies. I don't know if it was Thor 2 or Avengers 1 or something, like in 3D in the theater, like that type of 3D. And that was a little weird too, but like, it wasn't this type of cheesy 3D. I guess different.
I saw Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince in 3D, and it still wasn't good. And the first Deathly Hallows in 3D, and it was just by accident because we were just like buying tickets and that, or we showed up and like that's what we got to go in and see.
Gotcha.
But no, I am not a fan of 3D, and this special effects look piss poor, and they wasted a lot of money on this one shot. I can tell you, and it just would have been so much cheaper to have a practical effect behind it. But again.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they were going for this 3D nonsense in 2012.
Yeah.
It definitely makes sense of why the shot looks the way that it does, but it looks like shit.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm saying this is probably why, because some of this was done with the 3D in mind. But again, it turns out that's still part of their dream too. She wakes up, he doesn't actually get stabbed, he's fine.
Yeah.
And then they do a bunch of nods again to the game, and because he gives her the famous white vest as her birthday present before he sends her off to her first day at a new school, because they just moved. And basically, they move around a lot because at this point, they have been hunted and chased by the cultists from Silent Hill trying to get to Heather/Cheryl. So they keep moving around on the run all the time and changing her name. That's basically the premise. So at the school, she's introduced. She meets Vincent, Kit Harington. Now Vincent is from the game. And he's similar, sort of, in this game, in the movie, other than in the fact that he is the son of Claudia Wolf. But other than that, completely different characters.
That's where other than him being a man
Yeah.
and having a mom,
Yeah.
that's where the similarities end.
Yes. Because later we find out he's basically been sent from Silent Hill through a ritual that allowed him to pass through the fog as like a envoy of their cult to track down and try to lure Heather to Silent Hill.
Because the standard methods of hiring a private investigator, which worked, wasn't yielding the results that they needed, apparently.
Yeah. So they do hire the private investigator, which Detective Douglas Cartman, I think his name is, and he shows up.
The scene where he shows up, because right before it, she's trying to get on the school bus, and she looks down at the homeless man, who looks up at her, and at first he's a homeless man, then he's an ass face,
yeah,
and then he's a homeless man again, and like I had to rewind it earlier because it's been a minute since the scene, and I was like, that's right. I remember screaming in the theater, ass face, because that's what it was. And like, it wasn't scary. It's ridiculous looking. I know that it's not an ass, but I don't know what it's supposed to be.
No, I agree. This first one, I agree with you. It does look ridiculous. I did not care for it either.
The weirdest fucking
so
looking
weird
thing.
It's really an odd choice for the first kind of
like
scare.
A double chin.
There's
that got pulled
another
over his face. I don't know. It's weird looking.
There's another really weird moment in this movie that I don't remember being in the game at all. Just a weird decision they tried to make. But somewhere before she gets to Silent Hill, she has like a vision. Or she's at like a park or something with a kid's birthday party.
Oh, with the clowns and shit?
Yeah, like apparently everybody's a murderous clown. Like there were not clowns in the games, not in Silent Hill. Other than like, okay, unless you're gonna make a stretch like clowns are at amusement parks and circuses, and that's why they're clowns. That's a stretch. I mean, that is a Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Plastic stretch of a stretch. But other than that, I don't know why they did, because it's stupid. It looks terrible and it makes no sense.
Because
clowns do not belong and Silent Hill do not go hand in hand. That clown horror is its own genre. This is Silent Hill. Keep your clowns out of my Silent Hill. I don't need that. It was stupid. I did not care for that.
It's Silent Hill and it's Konami, and they're always 3 to 6 years behind the times, right? This game or one came out 3 years after Resident Evil had already hit the market, after several Resident Evils, right? Mm-hmm. Konami's late to the game again because the movie of Resident Evil came out way before the Silent Hill movie did by like 4 or 5 years. So here we are in 2012, and Konami's just taking shit that was scary in the early 2000s and fucking putting it into their new fucking movie. I know it's not Konami as the director, but either way, that's just Konami's fucking way that Silent Hill works for them. Is like, whatever's happened, they're going to do it, but they're going to do it 5-10 years later than it was ever when it was popular.
Right.
Like, it's just how they roll. And I guess that's why some of this shit is in here. I don't know. But yeah, that whole park thing is just weird because like the clown's like eating a burger it's not like rotted flesh. They just like inverted the light in the camera to make the burger appear darker, so he's just eating a hamburger.
Yeah. But maybe a little too much ketchup on it. I mean, it's a little gooey with the ketchup, but yeah, it's a weird, dumb scene. It's probably my least favorite part of this movie.
And then
is
she
that
snaps
clown.
out of it.
Yeah. It's like, all right, nothing happens. But basically, at this point, her dad, Harry Mason, gets kidnapped by the cultists and dragged to Silent Hill. And they write on his wall in blood, "Come to Silent Hill." They have to lure her there.
And they draw the cult symbol.
Yes,
which is great.
Which is the original symbol from the game.
It is.
Which I like that. I did like that because the symbol the symbol they used in the first movie with that weird cross in the church, I don't remember those being in the game at all. That's their own original thing. So I'm like, and you never see the symbols, those sigils in the first movie. I'm like, why not? You're doing this cult stuff. You had all this wonderful like cult like not hieroglyphics, but like sigils and ritual looking like stuff,
runes and things like that.
Yeah, like they were so cool and creepy. Like, why not incorporate that?
Yeah,
but they didn't. But they do in this one, so I'm like, okay, thumbs up for that.
That was cool when she comes home, because it's so weird because she's being chased and she's aware of it. So then she calls her dad. She's like, "Dad, I'm being chased." At first, she assumes it's the private investigator who is chasing her. But it's actually, it turns out it's I guess these evil entities that are chasing her because she's like phasing in and out of Silent Hill darkness realm kind of thing.
She's having visions of it creeping into her psyche. I don't think she's phasing in and out of the actual Silent Hill. She's having visions.
Well, because she brings part of it. She does phase into it because when she's in the elevator and she's talking to the private investigator who says, "Hey, look, they hired me to find you.
Yes.
They know where you are, and I now want to try to hide you because these people are weird."
We
Bear Trap.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So in the Bear Trap, the character's name, the creature's name is called the Missionary. I found that out.
She's not in the game.
She is not in the game. This is an original creation. I'm just glad they didn't call her Doggy Style or Reverse Cowgirl. That would have been weird. But
Bear Trap face.
Bear Trap
sounds much better.
The Missionary shows up, slices off the detective's hands. Again, that's the 3D effect. Where you see the figure. That's clearly a 3D effect. And then kills him in the elevator. And then
it's such a. It's an okay jump scare, but it's such a really bad scene because before he dies, he's in the elevator with Heather, and he's missing 4 fingers off one hand.
Yes.
And instead of attending to this injured man who was trying to warn her to help save her life, she's just berating him with questions. It's like he's clearly now in shock, right? And you don't have to be a doctor to figure this shit out, that this is obviously not the opportune time to be questioning the man. Yeah. But she's just like, fuck it. It starts out okay, and then it turns into another shit scene.
So he dies, he gets killed, and then outside, I guess it's the mall, and the police are already there, taped it off, and she gets escorted out of the taped off area, and so miraculously, Vincent's there. He's like, what's going on? He's like, get me out of here. So they go off together. And I think that's when they get to her place, find her dad's been missing, come to Silent Hill. So she has Vincent drive her to Silent Hill because she can't drive, right as the cops come bursting in their door to find her as a suspect in the murder of the detective.
Now, must have looked away for a second because I don't remember this. I remember her coming out, the cops escorting her away. They didn't get any information from her. They have a really weird dialogue about, they're like, "Hey, Chief, I found this bloody coat." And they're like, "Cool, evidence." I don't even know why that's in there.
What happened is she comes out one door, and one cop's like, "Hey, miss, you can't be back here." And he escorts her off while another cop, an EMT, rolls Douglas' body back on the gurney. A different cop, the detectives, stop him, search Douglas's coat, and find a picture of Cheryl.
Okay,
and
that's how they get her.
Yes.
So it is a real quick thing.
It's real quick.
I must have fucking
they hold like, "Oh, here's this picture of this girl. Who's this thing?" Find out who it is. We'll track her down.
Because they just all of a sudden show up at her house.
Yes.
And I was like, how do they know?
Yeah, they do explain that.
Because to me, they just shoved her off. I was like, okay, so I missed that. All right, well.
It's there. But they
point for you, movie.
They do find her surprisingly fast, especially given the fact that she's, changed her name like 5 times, and I think it would have taken a little longer to track her down, but
minutes.
But it's explained. It's there.
I will say this though, probably the most accurate police I've ever seen on film in a horror movie, because they knock on the door, nobody answers, they're very silent. Jon Snow and Heather are in there, and they're being very quiet, and they sneak out the back door or whatever, and the cops are just like, fuck it. They just kick the door in. Then they look at the wall, which is covered in blood that says "Come to Silent Hill," and he's like, "There's your probable cause." It's like, you didn't even have a reason to do that, you shitbirds. Good job.
Yeah, where's your warrant? You don't got none. So that's it. So they stop at a motel room for the night, and that's when Vincent comes clean about, I'm Claudia Wolf's son. She's like in this movie, Claudia is sisters with Christabel from the first movie, and basically they had different ideologies in how they wanted to run the cult, supposedly, or something.
We did miss a scene before Ned Stark is taken. I'm just going to use their Game of Thrones.
That's fine.
Before Ned Stark is taken by these people, which happens off screen, there is a moment where he's looking at a picture of him and Heather, Sharon, and Rose. Then Rose is
her one scene. I forgot the
right
one
because
scene.
this movie's so fucking bad. She knew it. She didn't even want to be in the motherfucker. She's like talks to him through the mirror and explains like how.
Thank you. I can't believe
how she got out. How Heather Sharon got out and why Rose is still stuck in the
and that's
alternate
actually kind of
dimension.
important because I can't believe thank you for bringing it up because I can't believe I forgot that because the way the first one ends, it did leave without that explanation, it would have left a giant plot hole because they were trapped in the Silent Hill realm at the end of the first movie, and now all of a sudden, like, you know, she was like, I don't know, 10 in the first movie, maybe 12, I don't know, and now she's basically 18, so many years have passed, so we don't know how long she was trapped here, but my guess is from what I think in the flashback, she wasn't there very long before they were able to get Sharon / Heather / Cheryl out.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rose says in a reflection in the mirror, like, I found a ritual. That's all she's saying.
It's like a medallion.
It's just like sci-fi logic. I found this. I'm like, okay, done.
Yeah,
Magic.
she's like, it's only
Magic.
part of it though, and so I was able to send her out, but I'm still stuck here. And
he's like, protect her. You don't,
Yeah.
do it. You gotta keep her safe.
And Heather is aware of this medallion.
Yes.
Whatever the hell it is. And she takes it with her
Yes,
when
she
she
does.
leaves
Yes.
with Jon Snow.
That's an important fact.
So
Yes.
like her dad has a box of Silent Hill stuff.
It's like the do not open box.
Yeah,
but,
pretty much.
But it basically guarantees it's going to get opened.
Right? With a letter to his daughter in the do not open box.
Yeah.
Just in case she opens it, explaining to not come to Silent Hill because they've kidnapped him.
Yeah.
Likely. And then she's like, cool, I'll do the exact opposite of that.
Exactly what you don't want me to do, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to take this gun that's in there and I'm going to take this fucking medallion. And, all right, Jon Snow, let's go to this hotel. And then that's when we get the Jon Snow scene where they show him how he can escape the realm of Silent Hill, like, to cross between the dimensions or whatever. And it's so weird. They have to, like, paint this giant fucking...
Oh, it wasn't paint. They carved it into him. Like, they carved a giant rune into his body, and which allowed him to pass into the real world and become, like, Aragorn, basically, or like a ranger scout that could go hunt them down.
I was being nice by saying painted because if you'd have carved this giant thing as they describe and even show in the movie, this man should be dead.
Probably.
Like, very dead. It's over his heart. It's around several important vital organs in there because it's almost his entire chest.
Yeah, it's massive. It covers up almost his entire chest. Yes,
but he lives. He's cool.
It's like one half of his chest right down the middle, and then like it's like. And
like
like
off to
onto
the
his
side.
ribs, it's like on the
It's
ribs
weird.
and will. Yeah, it's painful looking. He probably would be.
I'm not a scrub nurse. Maybe Aaron can take a look and piece it together for me and let me know. But I just feel like a man would die from something like that. Then again, I'm not from Silent Hill. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
But it's unnecessary.
But keep in mind, like, so he's known Heather for like all of a day. You know, a few hours at school, and then he runs into her at night at the mall. But already he's like, I love you.
I love this girl.
I'm gonna go get some. I'm not gonna take you there. You know, this is what I was supposed to do, but I'm not going to because I love you now.
Lifts his shirt. He's like, look what my mom did to me.
Yeah.
Also, they want to kill you in Silent Hill. Please don't go back.
Yeah. And she's like, nope, I'm going.
Right? Everybody. You got a detective. You got her dad. You got a shirtless Jon Snow, body disfigured or otherwise, telling you not to go back to Silent Hill, and you're like, I'm fucking going back to Silent Hill.
Well, she's like, it's my dad. I love him. If you had somebody you love, you would do the same thing. So she goes. One thing I want to mention, this popped in my mind, and just that we didn't talk about at the beginning, when in the dream sequence in the park. And this, I just think about the text thread in our text thread before this. One of the scenes on the merry-go-round, the carousel, all the horses, they're going up and down, and then Cheryl's there, Heather, and she like touches them, or she turns around, looks back, and instead of horses, they are now people gagged and bound by like barbed wire hanging out on the poles on the carousel.
Shit, torture porn bull.
And I see. That's what we're going to talk. I don't know. I don't consider this torture porn. Is that fucked up? Is it body horror? Yes, but I don't consider it torture porn. It's supposed to be. I don't know. I don't think so.
At one point in time, around this scene, I think when she's looking for the elevator, she like turns every fucking time this bitch turns a corner, somebody is bound and gagged. They turn a corner, and she's all of a sudden in some sort of like back room kitchen of a diner. There's a dude just hanging there. Some fucking
the butcher scene.
Butcher just cuts a big old slice of meat off, hands it to a guy who's just
throws it on the grill.
And you're gonna tell me this isn't torture porn?
I don't think.
Don't get me wrong. That's probably the coolest of the scenes. But other than that, everybody's bound and gagged.
I guess when I think of torture porn, I think different. I don't consider this torture porn. I think it's more hellscape. I mean, this like maybe kind of Hellraiser-ish type stuff, and I don't consider that torture porn.
Well,
like when I think torture porn, I think like
Clive Barker being Clive Barker. I feel like he sort of invented it. He can do whatever he wants with it.
Like when I think torture porn, I think like the Hostel movies. Like that's torture porn to me. I don't very. To me, it's different. Okay. But
BDSM bullshit.
All right. So anyway, she runs off, or Vincent goes on, gets taken or knocked unconscious. Somehow they get separated.
I thought she just woke up and he was gone, and then she opens the door, and then she's in Silent Hill.
No, there was something like because the darkness comes when they're in the hotel, and the hotel melts away, and they're like, "What's going on?" He's like, "This is the darkness world," and blah blah blah. And then I don't know if Vincent gets taken or what or something, but they somehow end up getting separated. She goes back to the real world.
It's such a great scene that everyone remembers it.
And then she opens the motel door, and it's all foggy, and she steps out into Silent Hill, and so there she is. She's in it. Another good thing I want to talk about, though, we'll get to, is she's in, I guess, a warehouse or something. I don't remember, but you mentioned they didn't have it in the first game, but the mannequins. It's this back storage warehouse filled with mannequins, and she comes to finds a naked girl on a table.
These are actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to say I'm glad because I thought this was pretty awesome too. Yes. So
this scene was good.
She finds this naked girl on the table, and she's like, "Oh my God, there's a lot of people here. What's going on?" And she's like, "Help me, help me." And the naked girl's like, "Help me, help me." And she comes up, and before she do anything, you see the girl on the table, like from feet up, like transforming into a plastic mannequin, and it's like this almost kind of this liquidy like thing, and it just goes up around her head, and then she right before she like completely engulfs her, she's like, "Run!" And then she gets up and she's turned into a mannequin. Behind her, Cheryl finds another girl trapped in webbing, like this thick, gross webbing, and she cuts her out and just, okay, help, let's get out of here. So so like, all right, let's go.
This bitch.
So they run, and that's when we're introduced to the mannequin spider, which I like. This design was awesome. I thought this was really cool.
This was neat.
This was fucking creepy. Like this would have been an awesome. Like I could see this as a boss in one of the Silent Hill games. Like that's how I think cool it was. It's just this giant spider creature made of mannequin parts, and it's got all these arms. And at the end of some of the arms, it's holding like mannequin heads, and it's using like the heads of the mannequin as its eyes. And it jumps on the table of the girl that just got turned into a mannequin, rips the mannequin head off the girl, so it basically decapitates that girl, holds it up, and joins it to its body, and it holds the head up. And the girl who just died, her eyes open, she screams like she's back to life now, but she's trapped as part of this monstrosity's body, and then is forced to like become this creature's eyes, and it turns and they look for and Cheryl and the other girl, Heather, and the other bitch, and they scurry off after it. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. That's God, that'd be scary and terrifying to be like that mannequin girl. Like I just got turned, and now I'm part of this monster. I'm trapped here forever as part of this monster's body, and I have no choice. It was
very cool. I like the monster, and even when she first walks into this warehouse room thing, it's neat. Before she even comes across the girl that mannequins up, there's a mannequin, because several of them are like wrapped in plastic. Sometimes they're just heads, sometimes they're just torsos. There's one where it's the head and torso that's wrapped in plastic. As she gets to it, the plastic around it inflates and deflates as if the fucking mannequin's breathing. But you don't see the mannequin move, just the bag.
Yeah.
And it was real good.
Yeah, I thank you I love that moment. It's such a good moment.
That was a fantastic little scene.
But and then they do. It's another 3D effect though. When they hold up that mannequin head to the straight to the screen, you can clearly tell that's another 3D effect because it looks weird. A cool idea, but it looks weird because it's the 3D effect.
But then I feel like the scene falls apart, and this is my problem with it, is because her and New Bitch escape through like an air vent shaft, and they make like just a little bit in, and then New Bitch just gets pulled away by the giant spider.
Yep.
What's the point of that? I didn't even get your name.
Yeah, you don't get her name. Yeah. There's no name. It's just she doesn't make it into the vent. She gets pulled away by a spider mannequin. You never see her again, or the spider mannequin, and Cheryl just moves on. Like I don't know, some shit happens. More shit obviously shit happen, but I just talk about the main stuff. So basically, Vincent, no, she meet Vincent or she meets Claudia, and they basically find out that she has to get the other half of the medallion from Leonard Wolf, Claudia's father, who has been locked up in the insane asylum or the mental ward of the hospital, which again is true to the game. So they do that. And Leonard's played by Malcolm McDowell, who,
It's the seal of Metatron.
Yes, seal Metatron. So Cheryl goes and finds him to get that. And the scene with Malcolm McDowell is fine. He's Malcolm McDowell, so he does a good job. I mean, the acting's fine. They do a good job, I guess.
He's not bad. He plays like a weird chained up blind man.
Yeah, he's blind.
The scene starts out okay. One, Malcolm McDowell's a fantastic human being. Two, he's a great actor. So, I'm all on board with that. But here's where you and I are obviously going to differ in opinion here, because I feel like it falls apart very quickly. As a matter of fact, I was having some conversation with it about nachos as I was pulling up.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Because he explains what the seal of Metatron is, and he's like, you need the other half to complete the ritual and this and that and bring Alyssa back and all this blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, cool, where's that? And he's like, it's in me. And then he just grabs the first, like, he tricked her into holding it. He shoves it into his body somehow,
yes.
Magic. And then he turns himself into this, like, very large creature where you're like, okay, this is kind of
Well, she shoots him first.
Right, once.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and he's like this large, menacing creature. And it's like, right on, dude. He must be like a new big bad. I'm down for that. And then she shoots him a whole bunch more, which doesn't do anything.
Mm-mm.
So he like knocks her unconscious, flings him over her shoulder, Donkey Kong style, and is like taking her somewhere.
Yeah.
And then literally 15 seconds after that scene takes place, she comes to, looks down. She's like, oh my God, I'm being carried away by the Malcolm McDowell monster. There's a hole right where this medallion is.
Yep.
Reaches in, grabs the medallion, the thing fucking falls apart and dies. And you're like,
yep.
What was the fucking point of all that? just to bring the two halves together? You could have just found it in a room? We needed to have this whole thing play out like it was going to go somewhere?
Well, you had Malcolm McDowell on her contract. I guess you're going to use them for, like, a day of shooting because that's probably all they had him for.
Right. Must be the new writer. He couldn't get the Canadian guy to re-record the music, so let's get Malcolm McDowell in here. He's just around the corner doing nothing else. I don't know. It was dumb.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe I didn't think enough about it when I was watching it, but I was like, okay, it's fine. I mean, he does in the game, he does turn into the monster, that he has to fight as a mini boss in the game, and blah blah blah.
Sure, absolutely, and I get why that's there, but they could have done a better job with it. Here, the whole ordeal lasts less than 2 minutes from intro to death. It's a 2-3 minute scene.
Yeah, it is,
and that just. What the hell was the point of it? Why even have it? Just fucking have her find it inside of a book.
Yeah. I don't hate it as much as you do, but I definitely see your point. You have a valid point there.
Well, because I had high expectations for this scene.
Yeah.
That's a cool part in the game.
Yes, it is.
Very cool part. But here, they just took a shit on it.
Again,
phoned in.
I'm not trying to make. I just play devil advocate. Maybe again, it could have been budget restraints, filming restraints.
I'm coming at this
issues.
as a fan.
Yeah. And it's very, you're 100% valid argument there. I mean, I can't argue against it really. But so that happened. That's the Malcolm McDowell scene. She kills him by reaching in and pulling out the seal of Metatron, and he dies.
And there's like no resistance. She's just like, yoink.
I thought that was my problem. Like,
this is mine now.
The guy realized, like, okay, this is basically my heart. This is what's keeping me alive. He's got a free hand. Wouldn't he just think you just reach up and like pull her hand out of him and like
that's where I
cover it up,
right.
or like
notice that there should be a little resistance.
Yeah.
Notice that she's doing it. Toss her around and then have some sort of fighting scene.
Yeah, that would have been fine. That would have been
elongate
good.
it.
Yeah, I think that would have been really but they could have been done. Well, we don't have the budget money for the special effects to CGI a whole fight scene with this monster, or whatever. I don't know, but I do agree that would have been better. He puts up no resistance, and it's just not like she just reaches in and pulls out like instantaneously. She digs in for a little bit. Fills around, so her hand is inside his chest for a good 10, 15, 20 seconds trying to get this thing out, and plenty of time for him to either drop her ass or pull her hand out of him and stop her from killing him. So there is a problem with that. Yes, I do agree. Also, at this point, Claudia Wolf has captured Vincent and has somehow figured out his treachery that he has decided to help Heather instead of help her. So Claudia orders the minions, the lackeys, to take Vincent away for basically re-education, to purify him back into the faith.
She's gonna beat him until he starts to listen.
So he gets dragged off to the asylum as well, and that's where Cheryl finds him as he's dragged into basically an operating room where which this is weird. So it doesn't seem the most conducive to I guess your goals if you're trying to re-educate people or to whatever procedure you are going to invoke upon them. I think you'd want to do that in your own time, in the safety of a room, not in a room that's filled with the murderous nuns or not nurses,
Sexy nurses.
the sexy nurses. That's a really strange thing because
I hate this scene.
They wheel him in there. The minions who have like electric cattle prods that keep the nurses back. So I'm like,
yeah, it's the Harry Wardens.
Yeah.
Fighting, keeping the nurses at bay for whatever reason they're in there. I don't even know.
Yeah, well, because it's a hospital. But yeah, but like if you're gonna, why are they in there? Like why would you take? If this is something they do on a regular basis or semi-regular why isn't this a devoted room? Well, they should have a room that's cleaned out of these nurses or not filled with these things, so they can actually do whatever procedure they're going to do without having to constantly taser sexy nurses or worry about them killing them. That just seems totally, counterproductive it doesn't make any sense.
Because almost immediately they lose control.
Not almost, it is immediately.
And the fucking nurses kill him.
Yeah.
And like Jon Snow's like trying to get out of the bed. And I don't understand how the nurses work here.
Yeah, because it's different in this movie than it was in the first one. The first movie, they were attracted by light. It was the light that triggered them. And this one, it's more sound-based. Because as soon as they open up, they get attracted to the sounds of them wheeling Jon Snow in and then just opening doors and moving around.
Right.
And then all the zap,
I
get back.
get that. But like, when sound stops, they
stop. Yes.
But that doesn't make any sense because even in the game, when you made noise, they came at you, and they kept coming at you. If you stopped moving, they didn't stop.
No.
Like
that's what I'm
the
saying.
Noise is over here. Let's go over here.
Yeah, they changed them up. They should not have stopped. If it was going to be
weird.
light based, it would make sense for them to stop when the lights go away. Right. That makes sense because that was kind of in the game. Like you turn off the light, they don't see you. They kind of stop. Yeah, but yeah, this one was sound based, which really fucked it up. But I guess the only reason they do that is because we can't have the tension with Jon Snow trying to free himself if they're only attracted to light, because then he'd just free himself and get away because even if he made noise, they wouldn't care. So I think that's my only explanation of why they changed it to try to enhance the drama.
I guess they're supposed to look creepier because there's a whole room full. There's like a dozen of them in there.
Yeah.
So every time the sound goes off, they like twitch and move in like weird contorted ways. Yeah. But it's like, it's sound. Like, how do you not know to go towards that fucking sound? The goddamn dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, which were stupid, fucking knew to fucking go towards the goddamn noise, but you can't figure it out?
Yeah, it's like it's like a two or three step process. Like the first sound activates them, they twitch. And if the second sound, maybe they'll go to it, but the first one just activates them. Yeah. And if they don't hear anything after that, then they go back to deactivation mode, and they have to be reactivated again. Yeah. That's the only thing I think of when I try to explain it.
It's so stupid, and it's long. And Heather comes in eventually,
and she's like freeze. But of course they make a big noise. They get attacked. Jon Snow, the gurney falls over. Everything goes out. They have to fight the nurses. They get out, but of course they do.
Her and Lord Commander of the Night Watch fucking make it out. Yep. No nurses fucking attack. Whatever.
And nurses are left behind in silence.
To twitch no more.
To twitch no more. So
stupid.
They figure out they have to go to the amusement park.
Fucking amusement park.
Where, because for some reason the amusement park is where the cult is headquarters is at now, which so maybe there's a lighthearted side to the cult too.
I guess
in between rituals and burning people, they want to play some skee ball or
funnel cake
or ride the teacups. Maybe I don't know what's going on, but apparently the headquarters is at the amusement park now. So they
join the cult of Metronon and get some free funnel cake.
Yeah.
Unlimited skee ball tokens, but only in the summer.
And so this brings us back to the opening, the nightmare. It's basically the nightmare opening again, only now Jon Snow's there. I do like the fact that they kept the pink bunny mascots from the game, which again they also incorporate into Dead by Daylight Silent Hill package chapter. But at this point, the minions, the lackeys are coming there too. So Jon Snow uses himself as a distraction. He runs off so Heather can make it to her dad in the center while he distracts the lackeys on a wild goose chase, basically. But he gets caught. He gets caught instantly, and he gets pulled into taken to his mom. But Heather shows up. I think there's a scene with Heather. I think was this on before or after she encounters her evil self again, evil Alessa on the merry-go-round.
Just sort of shows up.
Yeah, but first it's young Alessa. It's the young girl, and then she like transforms and just morphs
at first
into,
it's like the little girl from the first movie, which is really neat, and they make her look really good. I will say the CG on that looks really good.
Yes.
And then she turns into the adult version of Heather now,
which I think looked really good too. I loved the dark version of Heather. I think she looked awesome.
But it was just weird that she just showed up without explanation. When it's like, why didn't you just fucking do that at any point given time?
Yeah.
Why was it? Did you have to be here at the Lakeside Amusement Park HQ? You couldn't. Like, this is only where you can show up.
Yeah,
kind of thing?
I didn't think about it that way, but that's a good point. But she's basically like, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. I sacrificed basically myself, and you're supposed to be the good part of me. You're supposed to be out there living your life away from here. Having the good life that I never had. Why?
Even your evil twin is telling you shouldn't have fucking came back to Silent Hill.
And so that pisses off evil twin. She's like, well, fuck you. Why are you here? You shouldn't be here. And so evil twin embraces good twin. They become one somehow in fire. They merge together.
And while all this is going on, in the background is still Pyramid Head, fish hooked to this fucking ride, just turning away. And I am not lying, because you can see him off in the periph, like on several shots. He's just going to town.
Yeah.
This Dominican backup dancer just just fucking spinning this thing, dude.
So eventually Cheryl, the big climax, she finds Claudia Wolf. Her dad's chained to this weird.
Well, hold on. So she absorbs Dark Alessa.
Yes.
So I guess Heather has a power to do this that she's never known about, never used in her entire life, and all of a sudden summons it to absorb the evil half inside of her.
I looked at it as Alessa basically forced her way into the good one. Like, I didn't think like Cheryl developed a power. I think Alessa projected it onto her
without consent.
Yes,
because then this movie has a different fucking problem.
Yes, I think it was unconsented absorption. So yeah, it's a big showdown. Cheryl shows up, finds her dad like tied up weirdly to this weird human demon chair statue thing. It's weird. I don't know what's going on.
Again, I want to reference Temple of Doom. It sort of looks like the weird skull thing that lowers the chains in Temple of Doom. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either, but yeah.
It is weird looking.
And Claudia Wolf's there all white. Carrie Ann Moss, again, does a fine job. She does good with the material. Very similar to the video game. Very pale, long white hair. She shaved her eyebrows for this scene, so her face would be more just empty. Couldn't really,
But she looks totally different than how she looked in the first movie, and it's like, bruh, did you even see the first film?
She wasn't in the first film.
She's the she was we were talking about her earlier, the redheaded bitch.
No, that's Delilah. Yeah.
Didn't you just say that was Delilah that just showed up?
No, Claudia.
Oh.
We haven't even talked about Delilah at all, really. We kind of skipped over. She pops up here and there.
Yeah.
I think she pops up at this point, too.
She's in the end scene. I apologize. Yeah. That's who I thought you had mentioned. I was looking at my notes as you were saying.
Like,
so that is I was looking at my bitch rant.
That's fine. No, well, you know what? Cue bitch rant. Here you go. Go ahead.
So, okay. Well, I'll let you finish.
No, I don't even know. Go ahead. I just said that.
It's essentially over. The Dahlia looks totally fucking different, and it bothered the shit out of me.
Okay. So yeah, Dahlia, she has her point. She's going, but anyway, Claudia and Cheryl have their moment, and they're like, blah blah blah. You need to be dead to bring on our God, who will blah blah blah, sacrifice you to bring death. Whatever. It's the whole story. It's confusing. So Cheryl holds up the medallion of
Metatron.
the seal of Metatron. And she's like, and he like tells Claudia, like, take it. I want to see your true form, which is something weird, like Dragon Ball Z, Dark Souls boss type thing shit. So Claudia reaches out and takes it. And so she grabs it. She's like, her hand starts like all this, like it's like it's like when the world turns from Silent Hill into the other world, like it peels off. It does the same thing starts happening to her. It works her way up her arm. She starts screaming, and she turns into the missionary creature that killed the detective we've seen throughout the movie.
Bear trap face.
Bear trap face is reverse bear trap. And she goes to swing. She's got these big ass blades that like come out of her arm, like it splits her the forearm bones. It's I like the concept. It's a cool concept. It does fit the Silent Hill motif. She goes to swing her arm blade, and all of a sudden, then cha-ching! She gets blocked off by Pyramid Head's giant sword, who comes to the rescue.
Now he's a hero.
Now Pyramid Head is the good guy.
He's also somehow freed himself from his carousel torture.
It's very strange. Like, why now does he free himself? It rewrites Pyramid Head lore. Like I said, we covered it briefly, but he was manifested by James as a reflection of his guilt and all of his emotional baggage in the second game. This movie, someone somewhere along the line says the line that Pyramid Head is now Alessa's guardian. Somewhere along there, he's there to guard her, as well as be the executioner.
By turning a carousel.
Yeah, apparently. So that's what he's doing now. Now he's protecting Alessa, who's...
Oh, so now he's doing his job?
Cheryl, yeah.
Took him an hour and 20 minutes to do it?
So this leads to the big fight scene between Pyramid Head and the missionary.
/ bear trap face.
She fucks him up with her blade, like, because she's faster, he's stronger, but she slices the shit out of him and stabs him a bunch, but it ends up with Pyramid Head just decapitating her head clean off. Her head goes flying, and then he just turns and goes back into the fire, or go back to cranking a carousel or something. That's it. That's the scene. Cheryl rescues her dad. I don't remember what happens to Vincent is with them. The three of them make it out of Silent Hill. But before they leave, Sean Bean Edward Stark's like, nope, Jon Snow, take care of my daughter. I'm going to stay here and look for Rose. I got to go back for your mom. She's here somewhere. I'm going to stay here and find her. You guys go. And not much resistance, but Cheryl's like, all right. So she goes. Her and Jon Snow go off together. He goes back into Silent Hill to find Rose. They hitchhike down a road. They get picked up by a trucker named Trevor Grady, who diehard fans might know he was from Silent Hill Origins.
Travis Grady.
Travis Grady, thank you. He picks them up in his big semi-truck, drives them off down the road, while he goes one way coming into Silent Hill via police escort is the prison bus from Silent Hill Downpour. So again, hinting at the possibility of a third or fourth movie, whether it would have been Grady's previous, like his origin story, like maybe he was there because he's coming out of the town, so they could have done like his story, like what happened to him, or they could have gone into the Downpour prisoners story.
Well, Downpour is a lot better than Origins, I can tell you that.
Again, never played either one, so don't know. But that's basically the movie. I don't know if I really left out too much, but
there's a post-credit scene where Pyramid Head is walking through a new part of Silent Hill, but nothing happens.
Right. It's just Pyramid Head walking.
So at least he's not turning the crank on the fucking
carousel. He's free now, I guess. So a lot of questions there. So I guess Alessa now is whole? Is her soul whole now inside Cheryl Heather? And is she evil? Is Cheryl, like, I don't know what's going on with Alessa now. Is she one and the same again? Is she just the evil person stay behind and the good one left again? I don't know.
I don't know if you're asking me, because I shouldn't have to answer these kinds of questions. The fucking movie should answer.
Yeah. But that's basically the movie. This one is, I'd say definitely more action based than horror based like the first one, but it's definitely a different feel, way different. But let's move on. Let's save our final. We'll go on our rants at the end. We'll save that there. But let's just move on to Silent Hill Revelations. odds and ends. Let's do
Just
that.
when you thought it was over, here comes the odds and ends.
All right, so ratings for this one, IMDb gives it a 4.9 out of 10, which is down from the first movie, 6.5. Rotten Tomatoes has a lowly 10% on the thermometer with a 35% audience score. Again, both way down from the first movie. Amazon, though, well, Amazon's fucking Amazon. 4.4 out of 5 on Amazon compared to 4.6 for the first movie. I said the plot keywords, there were 185. We had biopunk appeared again, so that's fucking whatever that is showed up again.
Oh, we forgot to mention why those dudes wear those masks.
Oh yes, we counted out in the first movie. So let's talk about it. So that's how Cheryl and Vincent get away from the minions at one. Oh no, Cheryl gets away from them in the amusement park because
Vincent explains
that they wear these masks. Only the most devout and like upper echelon of the cultists wear these because they believe when they're in the other world that they cannot breathe the air. It's so evil that they refuse to breathe the air. So they always wear these hazmat suits and gas masks. So Cheryl, when she gets caught, reaches out and rips off on the gas mask to distract the lackey guy, but he ends up like melting.
Like
his face
chokes on his own blood, but it's like black, and
yeah,
his
he's
face melts away,
which is weird. So I'm like, wait, what? That makes zero sense. I like the idea that they won't even breathe the air. I think that's a cool idea. They're so devoted to this faith and that they won't breathe the air. But that makes no sense to why their face would fucking melt because Vincent and everybody else who's in there breathing the air,
no problem.
No problem. But these guys, their face fucking melts.
Fucking pussy.
So that's a big hole that I do not care for. I do not like that. I like the idea of it, but it shouldn't be. Their face should not melt.
It's like the majority of this movie, good on paper, not executed well on film.
They should just been like, oh shit, and like stumble to get the mask back on, and then just been fine. But whatever. So biopunk, breast, city limits sign. If you really want that in your movie, there you go.
Did you say breast?
Breast. Yeah, I guess there was a boob in there somewhere along the line. I don't remember where, but the naked girl on the mannequin table.
Okay.
Yeah, she's naked.
Yeah, okay.
Pop-Tart.
Breast, singular.
Breast.
Say
No,
Pop-Tart?
it's plural. It's breasts.
Oh, breasts.
Pop-Tart.
Okay.
Sexy nurse for
Well, yeah.
awkward boners.
Obviously.
And I wrote this one down just so if Aaron decides he ever wants to watch the movie, he might like it because there is a camera shot of feet in this movie. Trivia for this one. Let's see. Here we go. The pyramid costume in this one is a full body costume that was blended on at Robert Campanella's wrist, requiring only 25 minutes of preparation for each scene, as opposed to 3 hours of makeup that it took for the first film.
It's the same guy?
Same guy. Kit Harington admitted trying to play the Silent Hill games for research, but quit because supposedly he found them too scary. However, he also added that he didn't need to play the games as his character bears very little relation to his game counterpart.
Well, we're aware.
Which is very aware, but also contradictory. Because if you play the game but quit them because they were too scary, how did he know anything about Vincent in the game then? That doesn't make sense. I guess maybe somebody told him, but he didn't. I don't think he played all the way. So there's these scenes in the amusement park where, like, you know those games at the fairs where you like throw like a ball in like a jar and you win a goldfish. Mm-hmm. So they keep showing these fish in like these green water in these bowls, and the fish are always dying and sinking. So, but apparently there's this thing, the dying goldfish. The crew places supposedly specially prepared water that would cause the fish to fall asleep, creating the appearance of the dying animal, and not actually using dead goldfish or killing goldfish. So that's interesting if that's true.
Drugged goldfish.
Yep, drugged goldfish, drugging animals. PETA might be pissed, but at least they weren't dead.
Was it Rufalin?
The director MJ Bassett said he was disappointed with the final films.
Yeah, so was I, brother. So was I.
The most expensive shot of the film was when Dark Alessa sets Heather on fire in her dream during the opening sequence of the film.
Told you.
When it came time to work with Carrie-Anne Moss, an unexpected dynamic occurred on set between her and Adelaide Clemens, a.k.a. Cheryl Heather. At base camp, Moss was pleasant in her conversations with Clemens, but once they both arrived on set, Moss changed. As Adelaide Clemens describes, she ceased any contact with me and kept a 2-meter distance from me. I did not fully realize this distancing until we started shooting. She came over and put her hand on my chin. I've never felt a more intense invasion of my personal space. I just shuddered. It was fascinating and powerful. Interesting. When Dahlia is reintroduced in this film, she can be seen holding Rose's locket with Sharon's picture inside. That's, again, from the first one. Okay, we already talked about the Trevor or Grady and Downpour. We'll move on. So here's some interesting stuff about the drafts of the other drafts of the movie. So in one draft of the original script, the FBI agents actually caught up to Heather and arrested her and Vincent, but were killed when the police station turned into the other world. In the same draft, the missionary was Claudia's henchman rather than Claudia herself and was a male, not instead of a female. Pyramid Head killed it with its bare hands rather than through decapitation, and Claudia was stabbed to death. After killing Claudia and the missionary, Heather tells Pyramid Head that he is free and the Pyramid Head would crumble to dust. The script also featured yet another retcon that ultimately didn't make it to the final cut, where it replaces Christabella's role in the first film with that of Claudia and Leonard, who are shown to instead to be instigators of Alessa's burning. While Christabella is never mentioned at all in that cut, in the final film, they're stated to be sisters. Other notable additions were Heather's chases Alessa at several points. The janitor in the first film would reappear at Heather's school, supposedly and at Jack's Inn. It would be implied Heather and Vincent have sex, but they never did. Delilah also died at the end when Heather removed the seal from Leonard and did not die, but simply turned back into the blind old man again, or different variations of the original script. How would you thought about that? If that happened instead, if he takes out the seal instead of dying, he just turns back to Malcolm McDowell.
It still would have been a lackluster scene because you would have needed the fight. It wasn't the end result of that individual dying. It was the whole unnecessary reason for that scene to exist in the first place, other than great scene in the game. So they're like, let's throw it in there, but then they didn't do a good job.
All right, fair enough.
I would have liked to have seen the scene, though, of the FBI gathering them and taking them to the police station and then dying that way. That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah. So the scene near the climax of the film where Harry decides to remain Silent Hill to look for Rose is an homage to Silent Hill 2, where James Sutherland heads to Silent Hill to reach his wife Mary. Supposedly they're trying to tie that in. The mannequin storeroom scene happened earlier in the script, accordingly, in another rewrite, occurring immediately after Douglas is killed by the missionary is when that was going to happen. This makes more sense because the mannequin storeroom is in the mall. The mannequin girl is also supposed to be the same girl who teased Heather in the school for her unfashionable clothing in class. And the character Suki, which was the girl who never spoke, that's her, was added at the last minute. Jackie Leigh had already been let go by the time. Jackie Leigh is the mean girl in the school who makes fun of Heather. She had already been let go from filming by the time this scene was to be filmed. So she wasn't able to return to set, so that role had to be recast. And Suki, the set was already constructed, though, and it was instead moved to Silent Hill. The final version loses its irony as a result. So that's supposedly what went on there and why there was an extra girl there, and the mannequin girl is different than who was supposed to be. Also, Rose had an additional scene in the original cut of the film alongside the flashback scene of her showing her return Sharon to the real world. In the warehouse scene before Heather enters the mannequin storeroom, she would see Rose briefly step out on an elevator and then go after her, only for Rose to step back inside with the doors closing before it opened again to reveal the missionary creature that promptly chases Heather. It was ultimately cut because test audiences complained that Rose briefly appearing to Heather before disappearing was confusing and led to him believing that Rose would play a more important role in the film, which was not the case. So that was cut. And lastly, I wrote, in a deleted scene when the school hallway briefly transformed into a vision of Silent Hill, Heather was confronted by a nun who'd slap her and call her Alessa, with Heather shoving her aside before encountering the armless man as seen in the final cut. The scene was deleted because it featured a writing error. The cult of Silent Hill would never allow a Christian nun to teach their students at school, as they had an entirely different set of religious beliefs. So
that's right. Yeah, that was too much.
That was too much. And that's basically what the trivia I got for this. I don't know if you had anything else to want to say, or we'll just move on.
Didn't even spend time looking it up.
So that brings us back to the budget game.
It's now time to play everyone's favorite game, Guess the Budget.
All right. So, Cincinnati Jeff. Here
Yes,
we go. What is your guess for the budget of the 2012 Silent Hill Revelation?
Original movie was $55 million. I'm gonna go
50
with
million.
sorry, 50 million.
50 million.
I guess 55.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go actually with less here. I'm gonna go with 35 million.
35 million. All right. Your choice is 35 million. What did you do?
He chose poorly.
Close again, but not close enough. Budget was an even 20 million for this one.
Oh, okay. So
Even
I
worse.
was being generous.
Yeah,
Even
even
fucking
worse.
it looks it.
Yeah. But again, you can redeem yourself. We have opening weekend in U.S. and Canada, gross in U.S., Canada, and worldwide numbers again.
All right.
So here we go. Opening weekend, U.S. and Canada.
Opening weekend, U.S. and Canada. Can you remind me again what the first one did? Was it like 20?
Oh, the first one? Yeah. The first one in U.S. was 20 million. Basically 20 million opening weekend.
All right. I'm gonna go with.
Keep that page handy if you.
I'm gonna go with another 11 there for me.
Another 11?
Yeah.
You know what? All right. Here we go.
You have chosen wisely.
I'll give you this one. A little off, but much closer. 8 million.
Okay.
$23,036 for that one. Gross in U.S. and Canada.
Okay, budget was 20 million. They made 8. I'm gonna say gross in North America was 16 million.
16 million. Wow. All right. There
Probably
we go.
gonna be less though.
You have chosen wisely.
Gross, U.S. and Canada, you actually came in under just barely. Gross, 17,529,157. So not bad. Good
Not
guess on
bad,
that. Very
okay.
close. And lastly, we have gross worldwide.
Gross worldwide, 17 million. I'm gonna go 29 million.
29 million. All right.
He chose poorly.
Gross worldwide, 55 million.
Really?
362,705.
The fuck are those Japanese thinking? That's insane.
You know what? That's funny. I thought kind of saw the same thing. I was like, a lot of this had to come from Japan, like because you know they
I
developed.
mean, I
it.
get
it's their
Europe's
thing.
probably into it a little bit too, but like, Jesus.
Yeah, I figured a lot of that was Japan as well. All right, so before we wrap things up, let's go on to our Mortal Kombat combat.
At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall.
Good versus bad. Right versus wrong. Light versus dark. In the end, when the dust settles, who will be left standing after Mortal Kombat combat?
All right, Mortal Kombat, 3,987 total reviews on Amazon for this one. 69% were 5-star, with 4% 1-star. Starting with the 5 stars, as always, we have from Lefty. This movie had some of the best hellish surreal images ever put to film. A fun ride. The 3D is put to good use. Hell with the plot. A must see for 3D fans. 5 stars. I don't know if...
To hell with the plot.
Yeah, hell with the plot.
The 3D stands the test of time, though. Good luck getting the glasses and the TVs that go fucking with it.
Yeah.
You moron Lefty, you idiot.
From Boss Man. I wonder if he's big.
What you thinking? Is it the big one?
One of the greatest horror movies around. I love it. 5 stars. And that's pretty much all I wrote for these, because most of the other ones were based on like DVD came quickly. I like the Blu-ray, or blah blah blah. Or
I always like those when it's like, this is for the Blu-ray specific disc only.
yeah,
It's like, what does that have to fucking do with it?
yeah. So moving on to 1 star from Bradley JF. This movie is terrible. The storyline is boring. The dialogue sounds like it was written by a 7-year-old. The only thing worthwhile are the special effects. Overall, this movie is an embarrassment. What really disappointed me was the lack of tension and the lack of any sort of revelations. Everything was predictable. The special monsters like Pyramid Head were thrown out there in the first few minutes of the movie. The only thing that was sort of interesting concept was the mannequin spider. It was like one gem in a sea of mud. Screw this movie, 1 star.
I like it. He's like, there was not enough revelations in my movie, Revelation.
Yeah.
I'm with you, brother. There wasn't enough.
Grace Bloomberg writes, bro, don't even get me started on the inconsistencies from the first movie. Will never live up, 1 star. From Staheli? There's a guy standing on the side of the road and he flags down his friends to stop them from running off the washed out bridge up ahead. I'm that guy warning you not to watch this movie. The first Silent Hill was actually terrifying and fun. This one, well, stop while you're ahead, 1 star. And lastly, from SDC, it's when you ponder successful franchises like Saw and Paranormal Activity and what they did for the horror thriller genre that you find yourself disgusted in the lazy, lackluster approach to the creation of pieces like this, 1 star. And sir or madam, fuck Paranormal Activity and what they did to it. And Saw, I'm sorry, you picked 2 of the worst franchises in my opinion to compare this to.
Really? I think Paranormal Activity is really stupid. I like Saw.
Okay, I clear. Saw 1 and 2 were fine. Saw 1 was groundbreaking, was awesome. Saw 2, okay. After that, downhill.
Donnie Wahlberg, I'm a big fan of.
Fucking that.
Yeah, but I'm that's my consensus too. After 2, it really goes downhill.
And then Paranormal Activity can suck a ghostly dick, I guess.
Fucking stupid movies.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot to say. Eric, Cincinnati Jeff, you have a lot of opinions on this movie. So this is your time to get it all off your chest and just let it all out.
All right. So bad it's scary. This movie, this movie's just awful, man. The 1 stars said it all. I've said it throughout the entire fucking thing. It's ridiculous. The plot doesn't make any fucking sense. I get that they were trying to go for the 3rd game, and the 3rd game I am a big fan of, more so than the 2nd one. I said that in part 1. I am a big fan there, which is why I'm probably so critical of that. But just on top of it, I think it's just a weird movie. You said it's not torture porn. Fine, BDS porn. It lines things up just to be gross. Like when somebody walks into a room in a 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I see chairs and lamps made out of human skin, it's terrifying because it's something that I haven't seen before. When Clive Barker starts putting hooks into people's skin and things like that, and that's his entire bread and butter, that's fine. That's what Clive Barker invented. He can go for it, right? But when you start to incorporate those things, you used to see a lot of this stuff. Creatures that would move really jittery and weird. That was like early 2000s horror, right? This is 2012. This is what I was saying earlier. Like Konami and this whole fucking movie is 10 years too late to the game. It's so weird looking. There's an entire scene where she's like all of a sudden Heather ends up in an asylum out of nowhere, and like there's doors where inmates can reach through, and they're trying to grab her and hurt her. And Pyramid Head comes along and just starts chopping off arms. It looks like he's going after her because he is. None of this fucking Guardian bullshit. He's very much trying to chop this bitch in half. He's like, you know what would be fucking better than having 1 naked bitch? 2. And the entire time you got these fucking inmates with their hands out trying to grab her, who can clearly see the people losing their fucking arms, but they don't care. It just serves no purpose. The part of them grabbing her, excellent. And then he comes in and starts chopping off hands. That's be cool. And then maybe she escapes through a door. No, they continue on with it. She keeps running and getting grabbed. They keep losing hands, and Pyramid Head keeps Pyramid Head. It's so fucking convoluted. It's so long for no reason. It's just that's the entire movie. This movie is just so long for no reason. You could have wrapped it up very quickly. I just think it's just a piss poor excuse to try to milk the Silent Hill franchise in what I think is one of the superior games, if not the 2nd best game in the franchise. So I just don't have a lot of good things to say about it. The 3D stuff, I guess, may have been cool for the time if you're a fan of that, but I never have been a fan of that. I never like it. I think it's gimmicky. It worked in the 80s when gimmicks were fun. It doesn't work in the modern day. There were too many questions left unanswered. Pyramid Head's a pussy. Alessa and Heather are now one. What the fuck does that mean? Are there powers involved or some way? Malcolm McDowell's whole entire scene, you hear about that. So, I mean, I really, other than the one guy said he's like the fucking mannequin. It's like a nugget in, it's like the piece of corn in a sea of turds. Like, that's it. This is one thing I found that I could chew on and go, yeah, that was all right. That was all right. But that was it. And then that was quickly ruined. So that's all I got. Fuck this movie and the horse it rode in on. The tied up, gagged, bound human in a bag that it rode in on.
That was an impressive rant, my friend. I'm not quite there with you on this one. I agree with a lot of things you said. And honestly, I won't lie, listening to your points, which are very valid, is making me reevaluate my opinion on this movie now, and it's starting to maybe affect my original thoughts. But going into it, I enjoyed it. I do, like, not necessarily looking as quite as from through the Silent Hill lenses of the first game or something, but just as a fun, enjoyable ride. I was okay with it. It was fine. Maybe I like it more because I do agree with you. I think 3 is probably one of my favorites. 2 and 3 are obviously my top 2 favorites. I always liked Cheryl. I like the concept of her and this being Alessa's like vessel or something. What's going on with her, I don't know. So maybe I'm a little biased because it's like, we finally get Cheryl and that's awesome, and she's kind of like this god killer and stuff like that, and it's really cool. But yeah, I don't like some of the stuff they do with Pyramid Head. I do agree that they kind of diminished his importance and his stature. I do think you were right with some of that, but at the same time, I did like seeing more of him than we did in the first movie. The whole missionary thing was a little weird, but again, I'm not sure if I hated it or not, but it was definitely a choice. I think I might have liked it better maybe if like they said in the original game, if missionary wasn't Claudia, if they were 2 different entities, maybe that would have been made more sense. Because as far as like, we've never seen, well, with the exception of, I guess, Malcolm McDowell, we've never really seen anybody else turn into the monsters. They were just kind of there. But at the end of the day, I think, is it as good? No, it's not as good as the first, but for different reasons. I still think it was a fun ride if you can get past some of the stuff. I don't hate it as much as you do. But it's not as good. I will agree. But at the end of the day, I still think it's so bad it's good. But if we're gonna do that, just because it's fun, at least it was for me. It has its issues for sure. But I guess I don't hold it down as much as you do, which is fine. I don't know. I'm rambling. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Fuck it. I'm just rambling, talking for talking's sake now.
I think because I was talking to Nachos about it on the way here, and I was saying a lot of these things to him, and he's like, well, I kind of remember it, like, he was sort of backtracking a little bit, because he was like, well, I kind of remember it being cool. Mainly, I bitched about the Malcolm McDowell scene, and he was like, yeah, that was dumb. But like, if you take these 2 movies and just call them a set, and they're not part of Silent Hill, and you take everything that's referencing Silent Hill out, I still think the first one is a really good, body horror.
Yes.
And I would say that if there was no references to any of the video games of the Silent Hill franchise, that the second movie becomes even worse.
No, I didn't look at it that way. But looking at it from that perspective, yeah, probably. I would agree with you on that for sure. But because it is based on obviously based on Silent Hill and based on the third game, let's look at it from that perspective, and let's break it down as a video game adaptation, regardless of its quality of how good, but did it at least achieve its goal as being a decent representation of the game that it was based on?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think that it did a really piss poor job, because here's one thing that you and I talked about with the first one, which we obviously have already agreed that this is a superior film, is that we referenced several iconic scenes from the games that were present in the movie or even referenced in some way.
Yes.
Here, there are few and far between. And the ones that we can recognize, I think both agreed were really bad
Yeah.
scenes.
That's a great point. I mean, they can't really overlook that. I mean, they had the locations that, basically, okay, here's the mall, or here's the amusement park, here's the hospital again. So they have locations, but you're right. None of the events of the third game I can think of were included in the movie.
No, they were
It
too
was
busy
kind of
showing
storyline and characters, but yeah, none of the actual events. Like Cheryl didn't vomit up a demon fetus and then Chloe didn't eat it.
Right.
I mean, how do you not have that in your movie? That's like the craziest thing in the game. Like,
Huge
how does that-
thing to fucking see in the game.
And they didn't have that at all. You don't fight a god and kill a god. So Cheryl's not a god killer. Like
But
she is in the
otherwise,
game.
every time, than that, in this movie, every time fucking Heather turns around, somebody's fucking gagged in barbed wire.
Yeah.
So you got that going for you, I guess. And that's why I was just saying torture porn, BDSM, whatever you want to call it. Like that's why that bothers me so much, because instead of adding cool references and Easter eggs to the movie, which the first one's just fucking fan service jacking you off in the face, this one has none of it.
Yeah.
And they added their own flair of whatever they thought was cool or what people wanted to see in horror movies, which, again, by 2012, people were over this kind of shit. It was neat to see in movies like the remake of House on Haunted Hill and stuff like that, and 13 Ghosts and Darkness Falls. Yeah, cool. Liked that stuff. That was neat. Hadn't really seen much like that before. But this is 2012.
Yeah.
Right? There was no reason for this kind of stuff. They should have done a better job. Whoever was in charge, whoever was producing this, should have fucking stopped this fucking from the get-go.
Yeah, I also think that I think they were also riding that 3D train a little too hard, trying to capitalize on that at the time a lot of other movies were doing. I think
that's true.
They would have maybe gotten rid of the 3D effects and just made the effects better, but not so focused on the 3D aspect. Things would have looked better. Because like I said, that's a good point. Like, how many people now are ever going to see this in 3D? Probably nobody. Like, I certainly can't watch it in 3D. And when you see 3D effects, you can tell, oh yeah, that's 3D effects. That looks weird.
You have to have the disc, the TV, and the glasses that go with the
all
TV.
That stuff. Yeah, and even my copy of it, like my Blu-ray copy of it sitting on the shelf, isn't even in 3D. It's just the movie. It's not the 3D version. So it's like, I don't know how many people even own the 3D version of the movie. Most people, especially nowadays, on digital, I don't even know if digital movies are 3D, if you have to be on the disc for 3D shit. I don't know how that works. I will say you definitely have altered my perception of this movie with your arguments, and they've been very logical, valid.
Yeah, I'm not just being a shit.
No, you're not being just a
fanboy,
or just bitching or making bad points. Like, they're very logical, well thought out, valid arguments, and that I never necessarily thought of as much, but now looking back, it is definitely making me kind of reevaluate my thoughts on this movie to the fact that maybe it's probably not as good as I remember it being or enjoying as much when I first saw it, because maybe I was a little more excited about, oh, yay, more Pyramid Head and yay, more of this. But is it really, just because they're giving us more of it doesn't mean it's really good.
Yeah.
And I think I forgot to stop and think about that. Like, I didn't stop to smell the roses. I was just like, hey, look, they're cool, yay, but are they really good? And looking back to you, you're probably right. It's probably, yeah, I'm probably agree with you. It's not, yeah, it's severely flawed.
Let's hope I've changed some more minds and hearts out there. Because Aaron was bitching earlier. He's like, oh, I had a really hard day. I worked out and did a bunch of stuff, and now I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Old man stuff. It's like, dude, I had to fucking watch this movie again. Okay? Who do you want to fucking... I had a real problem today, all right?
But that said, there are still some good moments in the movie too.
There are, but it is not the sum of its parts.
Yes,
They're
you're
few
right.
and far between,
Yeah,
in my
the
opinion.
Mannequin Spider was awesome, and there's some things with Cheryl and Evil Cheryl that I really did like. I liked Evil Cheryl. I liked the Mannequin Spider. Those were really cool.
I liked the idea of them sending Jon Snow out into the world to fetch her and bring her back.
Yeah.
How they did it was dumb as hell.
Yeah, that was dumb.
And then him turning to, oh, I'm on your side now. It honestly adds nothing to the story. He helps out in very little. He has no impact whatsoever now that he's gotten her back. Right? Whether he defied his mom or not, he did his job.
I think, the only thing he did is, I'm not even sure, he might have said you have to go to the asylum to get this from Leonard, my grandfather. That might have been Claudia too. I don't remember, but he might. And other than that, he ran a distraction so she could get away from the goons in the amusement park. That's the biggest like contribution he did to Cheryl's journey, the whole thing. So yeah, he was kind of useless. But short point. This was Kit Harington's first movie role, though. This was his debut for you Jon Snow fans, historians out there. But all right, we've rambled on enough. We could keep going, but
he was good in it too.
He wasn't bad. I mean,
I like Sean Bean, but even when I finished this today, I was like, bruh, you're like one of my top 5 favorite Bond villains. Jesus Christ, you were in Lord of the Rings. What the hell were you thinking, here, buddy? How hungry are you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Go do some fucking conventions for Lord of the Rings. Stop putting yourself in movies like this.
Maybe it was like contract he signed. He had to do 2 movies. I don't know. But yeah, so that's it. That's our Silent Hill retrospect. We've covered pretty much everything that's worth covering. Like I said, we probably didn't do as much on the games as some people might like, but some of them weren't doing, some of them sucked, and I didn't play. And that's really, you don't need it. Hope you enjoyed it. It was fun. I really enjoyed looking back on this franchise. It's still one of my favorite franchises in games to this day. I still has a very special place in my heart to Silent Hill. I'm very excited about this remake or relaunch or reboot that they got coming out sometime in the future. I'd like to know more about that because I didn't know about it until I looked up this, started researching this. So that's cool that they're bringing it back. Maybe someday, I doubt it, but maybe someday down there we'll finally get a next gen Silent Hill game. That would be cool. Like, even if it's just kind of like a complete remake or remastering of the original, like kind of like they did with the Resident Evil series. They didn't. They took the first Resident Evil game, kind of gave it that graphical overhaul years ago, and then they did it with number 2 and 3. Now
there's a lot of talks right now about a bunch of stuff in the Silent Hill camp. Like there's like very strong hints of a remaster. We don't know which one. But of an actual remaster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's just it's an HD update,
yeah,
not
like,
that, but
like a full on
like Resident Evil remaster
style. Yeah. They're talking about doing that. There's talks of a new game. There's even talks of like a set coming out of something. Like we don't know what, but it's the studio that did the last game.
Okay.
And they're like Konami because they're part of Konami. So it's like their arm, or they're like, "Hey, you work on some Silent Hill shit."
You're talking about the people who did Shattered Memories?
Sorry, like Downpour or whatever it was.
Okay, because Shattered Memories was the last game before.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When I said I meant the last, because Shattered Memories is a
kind of a reimagining, remake, retelling of the first.
No, Book of Memories was the last one. Shattered Memories came out because it was on the Wii.
Oh, Book of Memories, yeah.
I don't remember the name of the studio. I think it's like a Polish studio or something like that. And they only worked on like one game before they started doing like Silent Hill stuff.
I think there was was there a Silent Hill DS game? There was like a handheld game too that I think sucked. That people forget about. I think it was Silent Hill or some other major franchise, but
got a Resident Evil one.
Maybe that's what. Maybe it was a Resident Evil. I don't know. I thought it was Silent Hill too, but
they had a GBA one, but it was only in Japan. It was text only. Nothing that came out here.
Yeah, so I just think Silent Hill is such.
Well, that's not true. Origins was originally on the PSP, and Book of Memories is PS Vita.
Maybe it was Book of Memories then.
That's
I don't know.
The last one, and it is RPG.
Yeah,
it's like Diablo. It's crap.
But I just love the Silent Hill mythos. I love the world. I like the idea of it and the lore of it and the world better than the Resident Evil franchise. Resident Evil, because I think there's so much more you can do and storytelling you can do in the Silent Hill universe than you can in the Resident Evil. Now, before we're talking about 70, now they're getting this Biohazard and Village are getting weird and different, but the original core, I mean, they're basically all those games for the most part are the same. It's, hey, Umbrella's evil, Biohazard, kill zombies, mutate monsters, flip-flop characters in and out, same thing. Are they fun? Yeah, I love Resident Evil games. I love it. It's so my favorite. But I think when it comes to horror and storytelling, I think Silent Hill is better. I think there's more to do it. There's more variety. There's more you can do with it. It's not always the same thing. And I kind of like that. That's why I'm always intrigued by Silent Hill. And I hope I really hope this series comes back in a really good, big way. So, any last words you got there, Cincinnati? And I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, check out Here Comes the Spooky.
Yes, do that for sure on all the places where you can get your podcasts. Check out Here Comes the Spooky. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed the retrospective. Maybe I don't know if we'll do something like this again, maybe, but hope you enjoyed it. I had fun doing it. Thank you again for Cincinnati Jeff for sitting in and doing it with me. Loved it. So in the meantime, guys, you know what to do. Watch more horror movies and always
Stay spooky
and keep it tight.